We're going to pick up where we left off of the Survivor Man Challenge. For those who haven't seen what this is, the Survivor Man Challenge in Farming Simulator pretty much boils down to you start with the minimum amount you need to be able to make literally a single dime in the game, and you build up from there. So it's a section of land, usually a chainsaw. In this case, it's a section of land and what we need to mow grass, and you build up from there in the hardest economy setting. So it is a challenge run for Farming Simulator 25. For those unfamiliar with Farming Simulator 25, this is a farming simulation game. It's kind of straightforward what that is, but it's a lot of fun. It's one of those games that when you watch people play the first time, if you've not experienced it, like, I don't understand why people would do that. Which mod want to handle the clip? I mean, if like Sentient Cookie or Luxray could grab it, that would be helpful. If they're like, I know Luxray was here just a minute ago. Sentient Cookie was also here a minute ago. I mean, otherwise you could drop it in the clip section on the Discord and I can grab it. Alright, so with that, let's load it in there and let me get our music going so we're not just listening to nothing. Okay, and I do apologize for everyone watching this later, where I seem underprepared. We just wiped in another game, so we're switching. Alright, for those who haven't seen what we've got going on here, we did start with like absolutely nothing. We have been building up. And to that extent, we've got our field of barley that's coming along nicely. That took forever to get set up and all that. Yeah, the snow melted, the sheep need grass. This is true. The sheep do need grass. That's what I need to remember is what the situation was. Alright, so we're good on water. The sheep need grass. And I need to sell the wool. That's what we got going on. Cool. But yeah, so I don't know tomorrow if I will be doing more RimWorld or more Farm Sim or which way I'll end up going with it. But it'll probably be one of the two. I've had other games I've been debating playing as well recently that I just need to commit the time to, you know, like deciding on which one I'm going to play next. Which will be another game on the list, not replacement of. But I haven't quite made up my mind yet. It's kind of one of those things that we've been told that Build 42 is probably coming very soon. That the hope is that it will be available before Christmas. No, they haven't committed to it, but that's what the devs had said in their Thursdoid. And so I don't want to get into Project Zomboid and mess with it too much right now. I kind of want to wait till like it's right about to be Build 42 time. And while I've been enjoying some of Path of Exile 2. You got the clip for me? Oh, gotcha. That's no problem. Soon has been 3 months now. Yeah, but you also got to keep in mind when we're talking relatives. Like, for one, a lot of people said that Indie Stone was being dishonest, and, like, they keep delaying, yet Indie Stone never committed to any time frame ever. They never do. Like, if they say a date, it means it's, like, literally coming out in, like, a week or two. But generally, Indie Stone never commits to time. They want to make sure to take the time to have it ready when it's ready. But, I mean, when we're talking about soon, like, in the next quarter, 3 months is soon. It's just everyone wants it sooner than, you know, sooner than that. Versus this is the first time that they've gone and said, hey, this is where we're aiming for right now. You know, in the past, like they said, they figured, like, the last closest thing they gave us to an ETA the last time was near the beginning of the year. That they said, okay, you know, it is looking encouraging for this year, probably not the first or second quarter, is what we basically got. Which the implication of that is third or fourth quarter. And just at that point, I had kind of figured it was already going to be fourth quarter. Like anyone unhappy with the dev cycle for Product Zomboid, it's Indie Stone. This is the pace they go. And they've done amazingly with it, but it is also not a bleeding neck speed by any stretch of the imagination. Versus if you want bleeding neck speed, you watch Path of Exile. Path of Exile, the fact that they do like an entire new league like every 3-4 months normally, I understand this last one they missed because of releasing Path of Exile 2. You know, you get the idea. They're doing like expansion level of contents every quarter, which is just absurd. Like, to the point, like, them pulling that off at all impresses me. The fact that they managed to sustain doing that for any reasonable length of time is just mind-boggling to me. Like, from the dev aspect, I would look at that and be like, there's no way that's sustainable. Sleepy Strider noises? The Strider should sleepy. Alright, so that should be enough grass to make the sheep happy, so I can work on that. And I should also take a moment to, pop on the Discord long enough to announce that we switched games. As part of one of the other reasons I want to get another game going on the channel is I do know there are a number of people who tune in. They got some in the camp that they're just kind of burnt out in Farm Sim, and others are in the camp they're burnt out of RimWorld. Which, you know, fair enough. Any game I play for any length of time, it's gonna be a thing. But, you know, basically have options. Options are good. So let me go do that real fast. Let's see, okay, and you got the clip. Alright. So just to bring up real fast, and I know it's going to be weird when people watch this on YouTube. So this is the wipe we just had in RimWorld. This is a clip that Burning Sun did at the same time. So I know multiple people got it, but yeah, so this is where we... can we make them leave? If I shoot... Oh, that's not the right clip. Okay, never mind. I can probably find the clip real fast. Yeah, because people are just saying if we can make them leave. If we look at our clips real fast and go to... Clips. Last 24 hours. Oh, it's not... That wasn't your clip? Oh, weird. It says clipped by Burning Sun. It literally says clipped by Burning Sun right here. But yeah, that just says... Mine wasn't your death. Yeah, that's the thing. It's weird that I'm not seeing the clip for the death, though. Oh, well. We'll worry about that later. Let me switch back to display capture. It's still a fun clip where it's just like... You know, I can get them to leave by shooting them. Yep. That's RimWorld. Yeah, and that was the thing. I was checking there, and for some reason it wasn't showing. You link the clip to Senju Cookie? No problem. Senju Cookie might be like zoning out for the night or whatever. It's fine. Like, worst case, I'll catch you later. It's always good to have those clips, though, because those are things that, like, later on, I'll take a lot of those clips and I might, you know, link them in videos or whatever. And that all helps people find the channel and whatnot. to be honest, it's great that doing so well, then 1 minute, everyone dead. Oh yeah, no, that happens in RimWorld. There are just times where, like, one event happens just right to ruin everything. Like, in that one, probably the correct decision would have been just let him set the wall on fire, have one of my people put it out, the guy starts walking around. The big thing and the reason I was rushing it was I had 3 people with malaria who were slowly dying. And I was like, I need to deal with it. Or it was malaria or plagueware. Gotcha, there's the clip. Let me go ahead and show this clip real fast. Oh. Here, let me grab it this way. I forgot when I grab it in the bots window, it opens up in a window, or not in the bots window, in OBS's window. It does that, but I grab the link. Stop playing. But yeah, this is the wipe we just had in RimWorld real fast. So we can go ahead and bring this over. Oh, you absolute jerk. That is absolute BS. Yup. Your star feeling and space war criming? Gotcha. Yeah, so it's just one of those things with with as many of those that were on there, there was no way I was gonna just fight them straight up. So I was trying to position so I could hopefully get them to tie in eye chair, but once they flanked around, which is I figured was gonna happen, I was just hoping to knock the first one down. But yeah, so you saw my melee pawn went down like just one hit. And just straight deleted the entire group in a matter of seconds. Like, already wiped. It's already over. And they go out and they kill him. But yeah, so that's what happened there. Like, in hindsight, yeah, I probably should have sat there and, you know, made sure the rhino wasn't in the middle. Because the rhino was closest to me. I wasn't worried about friendly fire, well, like, shooting the rhino. But I just never thought about the fact of, like, the other guy hitting the rhino and bringing it back. And then having the other 3 right there. I misplayed it. But it's just kind of worried about that whole... the 3 people with malaria going untreated because they were taking so long to actually do their raid. Yeah, but I got clips on the channel a couple of times where just on, like, not even particularly sweaty settings, just strive to survive, like, no special anything else, that in the course of, like, the 60 seconds a clip can be, that we end up having 7 separate events with, like, 4 of them negative. It's just, something's weird. It really does feel like sometimes with RimWorld, something breaks with its event AI, and it just starts triggering event after event. And that, like, honestly, if you stop, you close the game and reopen it, that stops doing it. And I've never figured out what it is. And the worst thing, that's Cassandra. Like, if it's Randy, I could understand. Randy's random. Sometimes Randy's just going to be completely tilted at you. But Cassie, that's the whole thing, is she's supposed to be fairly consistent. Obese Genius Donkey? Yeah, no, that's, the auto-generation thing gets some pretty weird ones. Yeah, so we're selling the wool real fast for some quick money. We have got the food already sorted out. I think water is fine. Yeah, the water is fine. So once we sell this, it will be time for us to advance the next months. Yeah, we got another, the same header. And then it was, I believe, no, it's June. It's June is when we, yeah, so June is when we harvest our giant barley field. So June is payday. And we did get just about all the equipment we want for right now. Well, I mean, not what we want. All the equipment we need, plus 1 or 2 things to be able to sustain it. Ideally, I want to get, there is a hoe that I can use for handling my weeds. And that is... $36,000. The other thing I definitely want to consider is trying to, the other thing we'd want to consider for that would be getting someplace I can either store or process the barley. Because if I sell it immediately, I sell it at the worst possible price. Versus if I wait a little while longer, it's worth almost a third more, because it's about $100 difference from the cheapest it goes in the market to the most, and then its cumulative price is about $200-300 per set. Storing was cheaper. Yes, it was. It was like 30,000 or something like that, if I remember correctly. So there's a very good chance that it comes time to harvest, I will probably build a storage building. The thing I'm going to need to figure out, though, is by the time it comes up time to sell it, though, we're going to need to have a trailer. Because we won't be able to get it back out of the building into anything of meaning unless we have that. But that's just what we're running into right now, is that whole thing. But then the other thing that happens is I need to re-sow the field. And that'll be another ordeal. Shove you along here to put you all together. And for a moment, I'm going to sit that down. At least I believe I'm going to sit that down. There we go. Because with this, I might be able to grab that one as well. Cool. Yeah, so we're getting a decent amount of money out of the wool real fast. We'll get a little bit more money out of the greenhouses. And then we got to figure out again in June, like doing the storage. Because we also should check real fast. Come on. Yeah, price for barley. So right now in June it'll be down here, which is pretty terrible. December is when it's at sweet spot. So that's what you gotta remember is we sell the barley in December. The catch I'm running into is I do feel like, realistically, unless I get really lucky and we run into one of the weeders or the hoe on sale before September, is I'm going to be choosing between, do I keep the storage, or do I make it so I can actually handle weeds this year? And I can choose one of them. And that's the problem. So, I can sell the barley on the cheap, which certainly doesn't give me nearly as much money, or I can get, you know, the equipment to deal with the weeds the next one, which it's almost very similar amounts of money that's going to save me in the long run, because I don't remember what the maximum penalty you take for the weeds are, but we would experience it. But just the same, like losing a third of your potential profit as well. And that's honestly a big part of this challenge, is when you get to this phase, you don't have enough money for all the things that would help you improve your profitability. And that's doing the waffling and going, okay, but which one do I grab first? Because then I also need the thing for the lime wagon to put down the lime. And all three of those I need about the same time frame. And needless to say, if I can only afford one of them, then I need three things. Two of them aren't happening. I think ignoring the lime is the easiest one for me to justify right now. But dealing with the weeds or the storage is a little bit trickier of a sell. Because I also need a little bit extra money after it's all said and done to be able to actually go and get the seeds and the fertilizer I need too. Which that should be relatively okay. If we're really lucky, like I said, we'll get something to drop on sale. But June is when I have to commit to something. All right, so we did get all the wool sold, so that is what we're gonna get out of that. And that's fine. We can advance the month. And we'll get a couple $1,000 in the greenhouses. And actually, you know what? We might get lucky and I might get to sell some of the sheep, which will help a little bit. I still don't think that'll be enough to cover all the things we want to do. But we'll figure it out. Alright, any lucky sales? I mean, we do have a tipper. That's not what we're looking at, but we do have a tipper that would let me carry stuff. That's 18 meters cubed. I don't think I'm gonna do it, though. Let's check the animals. They are needing of water. Which I'm guessing is just the again thing. Tipper works for storage. Only a small amount, though. That field is going to be way more than the A tipper. It looks like we had a tornado hit the middle of that field and killed a spot of it. Okay, so we topped off the water for the sheep. Yeah, no, the tipper's nowhere near enough storage, though. We would need a really big amount of storage. We're having another tornado today. I made the comments like, man, I haven't seen any tornadoes, and we keep playing, and now it's just like tornado, 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 tornado. Ah, hi, tornado. Alright. So, didn't get any sales to help us out here. So I have got to make the decision now. And the decisions we are making is either A, I can buy that weeder. And with that weeder, that'll let me do what I need to do to deal with the weeds for the next harvest. Or I can go here to the silos and get this $20,000 silo. And a $20,000 silo means I can effectively get 1.5 my current amount when I sell later. Or I could get the lime wagon, which I'm just going to go on the record and say is certainly wrong. And I gotta make that decision. So I'm gonna try and gauge how much barley we're going to get by just starting to harvest a line here. Like, are we talking a really big amount? Let's also check. We do have some thousands more we can do. The silo is probably what I'm doing. So those are fully grown sheep. So that's an extra about $5,000. Okay, are I set you to steering assist? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't need the straw. It's not gonna do me any good. The silo will be the better choice of draws time. Yeah, we get a little bit of that. So silo only carries 75,000. That's actually my curiosity. And it might actually be that we end up with both, because this is a really big barley field. So very genuinely, we might completely fill up the silo, have to sell the extra just because I won't have someplace else to keep it. And that might give me enough money to then buy the weeder when it comes up. I was just thinking, I would technically be able to pick up the straw and sell it. I don't think that'll be that much money worth of straw, though. Nor do I want to go through the hassle with the foraging wagon of doing that. I believe if we swap it this way also, we get slightly higher fertilizer from it, but I don't remember. Yeah, the way it's going now, you're probably going to have to sell. I'm thinking so, too, but we'll see when we get there. You say you're lurking at work and an officer pulls up trying to figure out if you belonged in the state park after dark? Gotcha. Yeah, we got a couple places that the tornado damaged this. Yeah, so we're definitely going the route of the silo. Now I just gotta figure out where I'm gonna put the silo. That's the next question. Well, that's annoying. It's fine. I'll clean it up on the next pass. Just one little offshoot. We'll probably leave that on the next pass. We'll just get through like the very end. I'll go through and touch up all the areas that we had like a little bit that got missed because the field isn't quite perfect when it comes to the rectangularness. You think the weak penalty is 20%? Not sure if that helps the decision. The weak penalty? Oh, weed penalty. I'm sorry. Weed penalty. Yeah, so it's 20% for the weeds, 15% for the lime, and I don't think I'll be able to do anything about the lime. Versus it's about a third of the potential profit. So I think genuinely the silo makes the most sense out of all of them. Because that's the one that potentially be the 30% potential lost profit due to selling at the wrong time of year. Alright, I won't be able to get this all the way across that we're already filling up on the first pass. The good kind of problems to have. Yeah, no, we're on the first pass still. And at 75,000 is the amount the silo carries, and we're looking at being at 7,500, you know, or whatever this thing carries, 8,000, whatever this carries, and not even finishing the first lap. So it's looking pretty encouraging that we will fill up the silo and we'll have a little bit extra that we end up needing to sell. Alright, so let's go here. Construction. We've got this silo. Because so that double the price only gets me 25,000 more. And this doubles it. So really the other ones are not better in any meaning capacity. So silos are relatively small. I think I kind of like the idea of putting the silos along the side here. So tucked up along the trees for right now. How big is the 30,000 one? It's literally the same size. I don't know why. I don't know why these are the same size, but that one costs 10,000 more. Built by a designer. About 9 loads to hit 75,000? Yeah, something like that. Sounds about right. Now, normally this is the point where you get your tractor with a trailer, you'd load it up, but I don't have that trailer. I do think we could potentially get the weeder to happen and the silo. The lime is straight out. Unless again we get like both of them on sale, which is very unlikely. Cool. But we'll get there. This is literally the smallest harvester in the game. It's where we gotta start. Okay. Alright, so we're just working on getting through these as best we can. It's gonna be a little awkward doing like 1.5 passes the length of the field and having to drive back to drop off. But this is the slowest this field will ever go in the entire time we play. Because every time we go, we'll end up getting more and more equipment to make it faster. While we're crossing this, I'm going to quickly grab myself a replacement drink because I just finished mine. I'll be right back. Alright. Ooh, you might be overpressurized. Nope, we're good. Well, you had to build a big? Yeah, because I need to get as much money out of it as I could. This is strategic. I need to be able to make real good money out of this field. The more money I can make out of this field, the faster I can get better equipment to make more money out of this field faster. You know, and then branch off into other crops and yada yada yada. But that's all good. That's just the nature of the game. So we can zip over here to the end, get the next one. Cool. And then we'll end up cultivating the field and all that. That should go relatively quick. Yeah, I gotta remind myself was come to using an actual weeder as opposed to a sprayer. Like when I do that. My assumption is I'll be able to seed and then immediately weed after that and not have to worry about it. Or if not that, the very next day. Otherwise, like, you get the penalties and all that. Okay. And eventually you want to get the McDon for the thatch blade where we just zip across and just thatch it all out on the windrower. And then pick up the thatch because it's like 20-25% or whatever. Just to do it because I've never done the thatch thing before. And I think that'd be fun, but that'll be a little bit yet because we got to get the McDon, and that's like $100,000, and then I got to get the header for it, which is now like $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, and then I got to get a header for one of the harvesters that could do thatch, which is, you know, another $30,000 and probably $200,000 to the harvester. That'll all be later stuff. Swather to windrowers. Yeah, no, it's, but the McDon has a whole thing where it actually cuts down the crops, and then you can pick them up with, like, a forage harvester kind of thing. It's supposed to be pretty solid. Because the big thing with the old one is it's basically, like, harvesting the same field twice to get 25% more, versus the McDon, if I remember correctly, can do it way faster than a typical harvester does. So it's not quite as extreme of a thing. The swather is how your grandfather used to harvest? Gotcha. Alright, so we can get back to our silo, top off a little bit more. Cut the crop so it could dry in the field. Yep. And then you have another thing, you clean it up like you pick it up with later. And it'll be pretty solid when we start getting really big harvesters. But right now we gotta make do with what we got. The big thing is now we're actually doing crops, whereas before we just at the beginning, we were just mowing grass. We were literally mowing grass and selling grass clippings as our primary income. We did silage for a little bit. I opted to stop doing it because we just didn't have a tractor adequate. And so it kind of almost felt like I'd be better off just going back to mowing grass. But we did get a decent amount of money out of it in that time, and I used that money to get to get the greenhouses going. So we got the pair of greenhouses and we got our sheep going. And meanwhile, during all that, the way we've been choosing our crop is not like putting any type of logic or rhyme or reason behind it. It's literally, I've got a wheel, you push the button, it rolls the wheel, and it decides what crop is next. And so barley was our first roll, and our second roll was sugarcane. So I'm not excited about that, because sugarcane is not amazing. Let's see. Swather, then once it's dry, you windrow it to collect it all into a pile to make baling faster. Yeah, well, I mean, with the barley and all that, I'm under the impression you use a foraging wagon. So you don't bale the barley. Use a foraging wagon or the foraging header to then grab it and, pick it up. I could be wrong. I haven't done it before, which is part of why I want to do it. Okay. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. We'll definitely want to get a higher capacity harvester later, just so we don't have to stop halfway on the field each time. I mean, the reality is, like I said, we'd get a tractor with the trailers, what we'd actually do. And by that point, I'd hand this over to the AI and let the AI help me. Sure, it'd cost me $3,000-$4,000 out of my potential profit, but I'd just be able to do it like 3 times as fast. So, it makes up for itself. We're not going to be able to use the AI too heavily yet, if we want to make any meaningful amount of money. The point that'll switch is once we start getting larger versions of a bunch of the tools. That's when it'll kind of open up. Because once I start getting the really big versions of tools, like the really big cultivator, the really big seeder, and all that, the AI will knock out an entire stage of that and only cost me $1,000, $2,000, while I can also work on a different process, and it just saves a lot of time. But unfortunately, it does cut into your profits. Right now, if I tried to have the AI do the entire field for me, there is a very real chance I would just straight up lose money. Because, sure, I would sell it for a good amount of money for the goods. And then after that, it'd end up catching all up to me in just all the wage costs. Let's see, with the McDon, you swath it. Then with the grains, you'd have a special combine header that you'd run to combine the combine to receive the 20% bonus. Yeah, that's what I was under the impression, is that there was one of the harvesters had a special header, and then it also looked like the foraging wagons might also work for that purpose. So you had like the regular harvesters could get a special header that was like in the same section as the McDon is. And then again, like I said, it seemed like it had the same icons and everything as the foraging wagons. Or the foraging harvesters. Yeah, the one I thought it was if we go in here, we go into that. So we've got the 2 here. That's just for cutting stuff. But if we looked at the... One second, I'm trying to keep an eye on that. If we went to here, we scroll down to the McDon area. They had... Where are you at? This one I thought was the one I needed. I could be wrong. Yeah. That's for taking the threshed ones. That's what I thought I needed. Like, I haven't bought any of it yet. But where it has, like, the different icons at the bottom, it's like, hey, you know, it's designed to pick up crops you dropped in the ground to thresh them. Cool, so we're talking the same thing. And my understanding is this one won't have enough horsepower for it, but the next one up that's like 220 or 250 or whatever $1,000, that was the one that they associated with the header with, so it should work. If we're already going to be breaking 20,000 by a fair margin. Part of me wants that red stripe that's vertical there to be like a gauge of how full it is. Like as we fill it up, we would see that go up. If you use a forest wagon, after that you get chaff versus the grain. Right, and I'd want the grain itself. That's going to be worth more that way. At least I'm pretty sure it's worth more, way more that way. I would assume crop is worth more than chaff. All right. I also, even though we only have sets of 2 headers, I think what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to keep cutting off the ends of the fields like this until I notice my rows are hitting either 50% or less. That way I can go that way and back, and that's one round. Obviously, this one I won't be able to super tell just because I'm cutting off this, and this is like 20-some%. But I think it'd be worthwhile to try and accomplish that just to save me that half row thing. So we're at 22% when we started that. So if we get the other side and we're at 72 or less %, then we're fine. Otherwise, I'll snipe the end of the field as if it's just another head row. Okay, we got a lot of barley. Sorry, and later on what'll end up happening is I'll get more fields that need to be worked at once. And that's the stage where I'll sit there and I'll like toss the AI on this one, I'll go to the other field and do that. It'll end up mixing up the types of stuff. We're gonna end up with a bunch of different crops. I won't just like monoculture out the farm, because then everyone gets kind of tired of you advance like 5 days and then you just farm for like 3-4 hours of real life time because of how many fields you have. And then you fast forward a bunch of days, and then you farm for a bunch of hours just in a handful of fields. So it ends up being like you advance a day or two, you do a little bit, advance a day or two, you do a little bit, advance a day or two. And you've got different things going on in different places in your farm and all that. Makes it more interesting, keeps it fresh. Eventually, then, we start running into limitations of not having enough equipment. Usually the tractors are the first one, where it's like, okay, I need to cultivate this field, but that other field I need to be over there doing the fertilizer, and then this field over here, I've got this other thing. Well, these three processes are going to require the big tractor, and that one I can get away with the little tractor. And so I'll end up duplicating some of the equipment we have when we get to that stage, which is fine. This is honestly looking encouraging that we won't probably be that far off of where I need to be sniping the fields-wise. We're definitely going to be a bit too high, but I'm thinking like one snipe on either end should cut it down quite a bit. Maybe not. It might need to be like 3, 4. Yeah, so how many percent are we over when we reach the end? Because 72 is what we were aiming for, to be at 50% or less per pass. Yeah, so we're over about 8%. So we'll snipe this end of the field, we'll drop off, we'll snipe the other end of the field again, and then we'll see where it's at. See how much sniping the end of the field cuts down so far as the percent of crop we pick up going across. I think it's going to be a good like 4 or 5 snipes on the ends of the field before we get there. I might actually fill up this before I get to the end here and have to cut across. It's going to be close. I think it's going to fill up right before we get there. That's fine. I'll still start on the other side of the field, and then when we get over here, I'll deal with that then. Alright. One thing we'll also need to do is keep an eye on our maintenance. With how small this harvester is, there is a chance I wear out the harvester enough it'll be worth repairing midway through this. That's going to suck a little bit if we have to do that, because repairing harvesters is not exactly cheap. But as the harvester and its header wear out, it'll hurt your overall yield. Oh, wait, did I not finish this row? Well. Alright, that's fine. We can deal with that. In that case, like I said, I'll go to this end, I'll snipe the end off, we'll go down the next row. And I'll skip sniping the other end to just get the spot I missed. It'll be really nice if we can get a big trailer, like a proper, like, semi-drug trailer. Or, like, there's, like, a set of ones you can have them in tandem or whatever. And actually, I haven't checked in this one if they have them. But in the previous game, they had the ones you can keep them in tandem and all that. Alright, we're getting pretty close to half full already. Not quite. Actually, let's start from the other side. So yeah, giving an idea how much we're filling that silo, we're almost half full for it. And we did our first not head row on the other side. So very genuinely, I might need to have like a second silo we put down here. The alternative being I sell it at the 30% reduced amount that we get to guarantee myself the weeder. Let's see, the tandem trailers for the tractor, yes, just be aware of articulating trailers. Yeah. I definitely remember finding ones that are like good and bad. I also remember there's like the weird trailer that has like 3 different segments in it, that it carries a ridiculous amount of crop, but also has 3 different segments, and that's like a whole weird thing where you empty out the first segment, you pull forward, empty out the second thing, and pull forward, empty out the third segment. Which is fine, but it's like, okay, I kind of just want one big trailer. Okay. Okay, we're at 27% starting this one. And we cut off the 2 ends of the field once. So that'll be our way to gauge how much a difference, because it was 8% over last time. I have a feeling we're gonna have to like snipe both the ends of the field at least once more. And then with that, we should get that going. But yeah, that's a pretty good yield. Now granted, this one had 100% fertilizer. I might not be able to do that this next time. Might only be able to hit 50% fertilizer. We did plow, so there was no weeds. There's no penalty for that. So realistically, this next harvest will be a bit lower, because there's going to be one of those things I'm going to be missing. Because I don't think realistically we managed to get the fertilizer wagon and the weeder going in, I think it's 2 months or 3 months that I have till I have to plant it again. It's September, so June, July, August, September. Yep. So we only got 3 more times to get stuff out of the greenhouse and all that. We don't get in our sale of wool. So we're probably looking $9,000-ish I'm making, not counting whatever we get out of the barley. Now the barley, I have no concept of how much money we're gonna make out of this. I know I could have sat down and said like, okay, it's 22.6 hectares, based on this math, figure out the total, yada yada. But I am entirely too lazy, and I'm not gonna do that. So. Alright, so we hit 77%, that's 50%. Which I'm pretty confident we will. But then we want to check the difference between 77%, and then we were at 8% over on the last pass. Because that'd tell me roughly how much percent I cut off each time I do a pass. So if it ends up being 4% difference, it tells me I need to cut off the ends once more. If it's like only 2% difference, it means I need to do it like 3 times more. So here's our 77% now. Four, 5, 6. Okay. So sniping both ends of the field dropped it by about 2%, give or take. Oh wait, we don't want to make that mistake. Let's just zip up here, snipe the end here. So that would imply I need to do the head fields like 3 more times. And that'll be 50% each way. I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to snipe this one again here because I'm not going to make it very far on the row. So let's keep cleaning this up little by little. Yeah, so I think the next time I go to do this field, if I'm on the same harvester, I'll set it to 4 head rows and see how it goes. Maybe 5. It's probably overkill, but still. All right. Little by little, we're getting it done. I'm waffling in my head, just like, do I buy 2 silos? I mean, ultimately, I should get either 2 silos or a bigger... I mean, ultimately, what I get is a bakery, and I dump half of this into the bakery. We put a bunch into the silo to carry over... Or, sorry, flour mill, not a bakery. And you get the idea that just over the year it slowly makes into flour, and we can sell the flour, and that gives us a premium over just the barley. You know, and then we get a bakery to use the flour to get a premium on our flour. But that's the thing. It looks, from what I've seen, it does seem like prices-wise for your production buildings, they add like a new base model that's relatively cheap at 36,000, but then they've also added a what was like the higher tier model. They've gone and increased the price a bit, which I think is fair. There's like an entry level and an advanced one. But it does mean for the challenge, I can use the entry level one. It's only 36,000, but they do process very slowly. So it just takes way longer to get your goods out of it. Yep, we're breaking 40,000 on this one. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. There should be a silo to increase capacity, but it's going to cost a bit more. Yeah, no, we did the numbers, like we did a quick glance, and so 20,000 is what that silo costs to 75. The silo gives me 150,000, which is double that. Costs 3 times as much as this one. So I could build 3 of the smallest silo to get the exact same amount. Sorry, I could build 2 of the smallest silo to get the exact same amount as the next, like the larger one. But at that price, I could build 3 of them, which is then, you know, 3 times as much. So you get the idea. And it makes a certain sense that I can, like, build the bigger building and there's a convenience benefit to it. But at the same time, right now with our limited money, it's deciding where's the best investment. You know, am I best served, you know, spending it all on silos to get the increased amount of money from the better payout? Am I best served getting the one silo we have here, selling the rest of the barley early, and then turning around and getting a weeder to then get the 20% more yield out of the field versus the penalty I'm going to be likely facing otherwise? Or honestly, if it's good to get the fertilizer first, which it's sounding like actually between the fertilizer and the weeder will do more for me, and that's not even factoring the fact that the fertilizer does cost a lot of fertilizer. Let's see, you're referring to the one that you set down and it increases the capacity. Referring to the one that you set down and increase the capacity of the existing silo. Oh, there should be a silo to increase the capacity, but it may cost a bit much. So you're talking about, because I've got these ones that we build, and you get the idea is they go up by 20,000 each step roughly. I still don't understand how some of these all work, but that's fine. Or are you talking like there's a vehicle? Construction. Silo extensions. I see. It appears those are literally the same price. Yeah, those are the same price we're looking at before. Well, that's neat. I didn't even realize you had that. So supplementary water tank. So I can put a water tank on like my greenhouses, and so I can top them off much higher so I don't have to fill them up as frequently. That could actually be pretty useful for the sheep, if it works with them. Yeah, so it seems like it's the same price as building a new silo. The only difference is I guess you have one drop point, and then they're just kind of linked together. So I could have like 4 of those silo extensions, and then the one building I have 5 times as much capacity. But there's the only one drop and pickup point. So I'm not juggling like 5 different pickup points and drop-offs and managing the separates. That's still useful. I didn't even pay attention where we're at the beginning of this one. I was 5 over? Gotcha. So not quite a full percent. You need 69? Thank you. Yeah, no, it's just more mentally juggling going, okay, do I get the silo? Do I get the weeder? I know I also need the thing to put down the lime. The one argument for the thing that puts down the lime is then I can put down the lime and use it to put down the fertilizer. And there's definitely some merit into that one, because that's the 15% penalty I eliminate for the lack of lime. And on top of that, I do gain the benefit of being able to take the 50% fertilizer and get it to 100% fertilizer on top of that. Which would probably come out to more than the weeder benefits me. But at the same time, then I have to pay for the fertilizer and the lime. And that's... You know, when it comes to the calculus of, okay, I've increased the yield, let's say it's 25%, I don't know what the actual percent would be, but 25%, and then I take that amount and go, okay, but let me take out all the fertilizer and lime I put down there, and then I have to take away from that 25% proportional to whatever that is. Looks like about 5 head rows. Yeah, that sounds pretty close to what I'm thinking as well. Which is a lot of head rows. And may only be an issue for like 1 or 2 harvests before, you know, I get a bigger harvester. Probably more 1 or 2. The other thing you gotta keep in mind is they do need to be able to get a trailer. Is there an end goal or just creativity and relaxation? More creativity and relaxation. I don't have a hard make $1 million, you know, plant 10 crops or anything like that. But it's kind of grow the farm till it's like, you know, I'm satisfied. Like, we're gonna get to at least the point where it stops feeling like it's a challenge mode anymore. Because once the farm gets big enough, the economics stop really mattering nearly as much. As you get into like economics of scale, where I've got all the equipment able to repeat it on a whole bunch of different areas, and even if I'm leaning hard on my workers, I still end up making a bunch of money a year just by the fact that there's so much getting done. Which is about where we wrapped up with the other one. When I did in Farm Sim 22, we had wheat, we had sorghum. We had done barley briefly, but I did wheat and sorghum were regular ones. We had done canola. We had olives and grapes going because there's achievements associated with that. I had the oil mill. I had the flour mill. I had the bakery. I had a couple of greenhouses. We had sheep, cows, pigs. Did we have pigs? Yeah, we had pigs. And chickens. And I think I already said we had canola. If not canola, we had. We had more than that. I'm blanking on some things. We had like a warehouse and all that too. We had like I think it was like one of the largest harvesters, the largest cultivator, the largest sprayer. You know, one of the very high-end tractors and all that. But as those challenges that at the beginning everything is slow and it slowly picks up speed because your ability to make money gets higher and higher. And sure, the things you end up buying get more and more expensive. But there's a certain point where you're like, you've got it, I've got the biggest seeder now, so that's just, you kind of check that off the list. Okay, so 18% this time. And that's good, because I gotta use the restroom, so I'm gonna do that real fast. Alright. So I've got that going. Alright, so we were at 18 when we started this one. So luckily we're doing pretty good in this pass. We're getting close. Because it'd be good just to be able to go down, come back, drop off, go down, come back, drop off, go down, come back, drop off. And just already like end on the correct side of the field for where I need to do it. So yeah, so I do think the next harvest will do, it's sounding like 5 hedgerows just to get that amount. Pretty good stuff. But I've been really enjoying Farm Sim 25. It hits all the same notes that Farm Sim 22 does. And very genuinely, for those who got Farm Sim 22 and they're like, is it worth it? If you have all the DLC for Farm Sim 22, there's certainly an argument to be made there that you can get close to Farm Sim 25 with mods. Obviously, you won't get like the graphical improvements and all that kind of stuff and some of the quality of life. But, you know. Alright, so this is where we've been even. So yeah, so it looks like we might have one more set of passes to do. 2... about 3% over. But yeah, so it does seem like that. If you're sitting in like Farm Sim 22 and you're missing sets of the DLC, then you're probably better off just buying Farm Sim 25 at this point. Like, unless you manage to catch the whole thing. How goes the farm? It's going good. We're getting barley. Getting all full of grains. Can there be a marijuana crop? Nope, this game is rated E for everyone. So, while with mods you can do anything, the game will never have alcohol, it'll never have, like, marijuana, it'll never have anything like that, because then they lose their E for everyone rating. It's also the same reason that even though you raise, like, pigs and all that, there's not, like, a slaughterhouse or anything like that. You know, is that, are the rocks on? No, I turned those off. I had them on at the beginning, I was like, oh, I know I don't want those. Because my big complaint about the field stones is you can only ever get the tiny little thing for picking them up, and you can never, like, get a bigger, faster one without mods. I mean, all they really affect is they damage your equipment more, which I'm sure there's going to be somebody who's like, no, you're not really doing the Survivor Man challenge, you have the field stone. You can't have a huge picker. Yeah, and that's the whole thing. There's literally, in this one, there's only one stone picker. And it's like 6 meters wide, and it doesn't move very fast. To me, I think the field stones could be a lot of fun. If I would like to see 2 changes to field stones. The big change, the one I think is the bigger one, is, and this could be my own naivety not being someone who works in farming, my assumption would happen is over hundreds and hundreds of years of working a field, the rate of field stones you'd find in an area would most likely go down. It would probably never be fully eliminated, but as you kept working the soil and getting the stones out, and working the soil and getting the stones out, working the soil and getting the stones out, you would see fewer and fewer stones. That's again, maybe I'm naive there. So I'd like to see it where if you go around, you do all that, and you do the stone picking, that you remove those stones, it's like, you progressively get fewer each year. Now granted, never fully eliminate them, but get it down, so like the first year you gotta go through and literally do every bit of your field to get all the field stones up, there's so many. But, you know, by the time you're hitting 10, 12 years or whatever, you're starting to get to the point where you're still getting stones, but they're kind of few and far between, so instead of doing like the whole lap, you kind of just pick out the 2 or 3 spots that got a bunch of field stones, you pick them up and drive off. And it becomes less and less of a big deal. Because I know before big mechanical equipment and all that, that was the thing that you would do, is you're like, hey, we want to put a farm here. And they would literally sit there before they planted anything. They would just work the field, pulling the stones up out of the ground. They would, you know, hand plow the stuff and all that. Because you think a farm once stated that frost is lifting stones up out of the soil, but don't quote me on that. Frost is lifting stones up out of the soil. It does, the frost lifts. Wait, I'm sorry, I'm missing kind of saying like during the winter, frost evil. Oh, you're just talking about that, like, but you're torn about stones. On one hand, it's like plowing only once each 3 harvest. On the other hand, getting, let's see, I was getting rid of the stones before they turn red. Yeah, it's definitely one of those things that, like, there's a lot of processes we do. If we had better tools for doing the stone picking, I think I'd be a lot more on board with. But like, going back to what I was saying, it was a thing, and this is going back to like hand tool style farming, that it was you'd go to an area and be like, I'm gonna make this into a farm, and they would literally sit there for like part of the year just sitting there with their hand tools just churning up the dirt, plowing the dirt, picking out the stones. You'd end up with like either stone walls around the outside because they had to figure out what the heck to do with all the stones, and they would sit there and churn through it over before they planted everything. Sometimes they would just go and grab other, you know, clay or whatever and bring it over and chuck it into the dirt or sand or whatever they're trying to do to get it amended to whatever they're looking for. But it was just a thing, like in the off season, it would just turn up the dirt, trying to get the stones out. But it was a thing that those areas they did that to for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. They don't have to worry about that hardly anymore. Like that was man, what was the game? It was a colony, it was like a city builder colony builder from like non-specific like medieval times. And with that, you had it where you could sit there and work the field to get them to be less full of stones and all that, and it was worth setting aside a big field, just have people work it for years and years and years, just getting the soil right before you started growing anything if you had the bandwidth. Are there crop and animal diseases, natural disasters? There are natural disasters of hail and tornadoes. They don't damage as much as they do in real life, but they are present. As far as animal disease and crop diseases, not really. Is he currently picking stones out of fields fields that you just cleared? Yeah. It's not terrible, but like for a field this size, it would be like another hour, hour and a half of process for the field of just picking up the stones. I wasn't paying attention again to the percents. We're getting really close, if not there. $2% over? About 4 over. Well, about 4 over would have been where we had on the last one, so I'm guessing it's about the 2 over. Either way, it probably means one more sniping of the ends of the fields, which is fine. Need to be at 66%? Gotcha. I guess sell the barley later. The intention right now is I'm putting the barley into a silo because this is the time of year it's got the worst price. That way I can circle back and get a better price later, because it seems to be the best prices in December, at which point we will sell the barley in December. Let's see, rock removal is one of the worst plagues in a new field. Yeah, no, in real life. Just cleaning up rocks and all that. But that's where I'm kind of in my mind, is the way I see it is in real life, as you remove more and more rocks from your field, you should have less rocks that you find. Like, again, and I don't think you'd never have none, because I assume, you know, with all like the plows and all that, you'll churn up dirt a little bit lower than you previously had, picking up a little bit of rocks that, you know, got missed, and yada yada. Let's see, so 6 hedgerows and 1 extra on one side should do. Yeah, it's probably also one of those things that I'm doing these extra hedgerows by hand. I'm not precise, so I'm probably overlapping a little bit more than I need to. So using the actual thing, I might be able to cut down just the 6. Let's see, here you have as many rocks as you did 50 years ago. Well, that's disappointing. It's probably also one of the things that matters where you're as well, like if you have something like a hard pan or something where you're scraping up the hard pan, pulling it back up again and again, you know, carving into it, versus if you've got like a really deep topsoil or something. I have no idea. I don't really know what I'm talking about with that. Part of me wants it to be like a problem you can not solve, but mitigate. And rock removal is genuinely the worst, so boring. Is there a no electric Amish type option? Not in the base game. We don't have them yet, but in Farm Sim 22 you did have where you could get like a hand plow through mods. They would push around the hand plow and all that. I don't think I saw like a horse-drawn plow, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was one, because all you'd do is you basically make the horse. You'd have a tractor that would be the horses that could only attach like a certain plow or whatever. Would be your way of working around that kind of thing. So it wouldn't surprise me if it existed. I don't know how it would look though. But yeah, no, that's actually kind of one of the things I would like to see in a farm sim style game. is where you could like farm through the ages, as it were. So you'd start the game and, you know, you'd have your like horse-drawn, ox-drawn tools and that kind of thing. Oh, try a row? Well, I've already committed to starting this row, but we should be pretty close. If we're not there, we're like one cut off there. Yeah, so it should be really close to having it be 50% each way. There's that weird historical farming sim. I'm not super aware of that one. Where people are saying there's the weird one that's usually not instilling a whole lot of confidence. But yeah, no, it'd be interesting to have. You should now be at a full 7 head rows. Gotcha. Agricultural simulator historical farming. Well, with the weird context, is it any good, or is like the weird being like it's got some perhaps not the best decisions? Like, does anyone know about this game? Is it a game that is worth considering, or is it like, no, it's weird, like really not worth? But I liked the idea of being able to start the game and have very little stuff to work with. You've got like hand tools and animal drawn tools, and you play for a couple years like that. And then, you know, they start introducing tractors that are like 10 horsepower and all that, and very basic tools that go with that. And, you know, from there you start getting the ones that you start getting like 30 and 50 horsepower, and then you start getting ones that are like 100 and so horsepower. And just kind of playing through. Like, you need to make it so time could pass relatively fast to make it not tedious. But I do like the idea, or even if you want to make it weird and not truly authentic, have like a research tree of some kind. Like maybe you can spend money to research more advanced farming equipment, so you'd have the purchasing of it and all that. But so you've now played, but from what you read reviews, is that it's crap. It's also not very hands tools to start to work your way up to motorized things, but rather just early industrial area kind of thing. Gotcha. I also wasn't paying attention to where we were at with this, but it's looking really promising that I'm only now hitting about 50%. We're about to hit the other side. You're looking for 66, 67? We're going to be close. We're going to be like right on that fence. It's the indie crap version of Farming Sim. That's what I'm hearing. Gonna be right on that fence. I think we're gonna fall well, actually, no, if it's 66, 67, I think we'll fall at 67. Yeah, so if we snipe the end of this field, then we should be able to go there and back. Because this field, I had this one little line that wasn't quite finished. But yeah, no, it'd be interesting to have some type of technology progression in the farming stuff. I think realistically having some type of equivalent to like a research tree or something would be good. Or even for, oh, you know what? I need to get rid of that thing off the title. The pinned thing, I mean. Said max 7 head rows, but if you use GPS, might be 6 and 1. Yeah. It's also those things I'll probably have to deal with once or twice, and then we'll just have a bigger harvester, and all of that goes out the window. But yeah, so like for those who are familiar with like Game Dev Tycoon, or there's been a number of games that have tried to mimic that model. Something like that, but with the simulation as opposed to like the little bubbles. Of just kind of like following farming, you know, throughout the ages, as it were. I don't know, I feel like that would fall into, there's like the games like farm manager style games. I feel like that's more in that style of game though. That would just work easier there. Because then ultimately it could just be a graphic on your field that you're like, oh, you know, you got your ox-drawn plows and they don't have to like do all the physics and all that kind of stuff that they have to figure out. Close to full, it should be. 6 to 8, yeah, so the next one will top it off. So, I think I have a little extra that I could sell. What? Why are you weird? Okay. Weirdly, it must have recalculated at some point. That's fine. Because we'll cut across, we'll cut back, it'll be fine. Get it lined up right. Hey, Lennox. We're actually harvesting barley, but very similar to wheat. They're both grains. So we're gonna have the starting 2 hedgerows, maybe. And I missed that. But see, it's a cool concept. You often feel like historical progression games rush through the ages, make you feel awful getting the early game tech, and then by the nope, might as well start with the later game eras. Yeah, it like you need the early ones to last long enough and to still be fun. And so, like if you take the 4X strategy game approach to it, it's usually the things you run into in the early game are nowhere near as challenging. So like Stellaris and all that. Whereas when you have games that are like the Tycoon style game, then yeah, usually it's how fast can I beeline to my preferred technology to then use that and then delete my old stuff. But I'd be curious. Yeah, I figured we drop this off. And I don't think it makes sense for me to run all the way to the sell point unless I have a full load. Because unfortunately the sell point is actually not super convenient to where I'm at. It's not super far, but it's far enough I wouldn't want to go there for like a fourth of a load unless it's like the end of the field. We can figure that all out. Because I still don't own a trailer to actually load up stuff to ship it back and forth. So I gotta drive the harvester over there. How bad am I gonna hit myself with the price selling it today, by the way? So the max price is, so we're gonna get about 60 bucks, or sorry, 80 bucks less than the max right now. Which is not amazing. That's a pretty steep hip. That is not quite a third of what we could potentially make. But my choices are, if I do want to store it, I gotta build a extension which costs me 20,000. And if I build the extension, that means I'm almost certainly not getting, you know, the weeder, or the thing for putting down the lime, or the thing for putting down the fertilizer, or a trailer, or any of those things. So do also still need to make sure that trailer does, just as a precaution for ourselves. What is the cheapest trailer? Oh, it's like 4,000. Yeah, okay, never mind. I wouldn't want to move it with that stuff. But you could do sell point runs until you get more capacity. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm thinking. I am thinking we sell like the barley we've got here. And then with that, we can pick up one or two of the other tools. And sure, we're not going to get the maximum profit out of it, but with those extra tools, that should give us more money for the next time. Because I do need to plant all this stuff before I get my payout, otherwise. So this will be about 80% just shy of. We can just drive over here and do a quick drop off and see what I get for, you know, all that amount. Because unfortunately, this is the drive we got to do here. Okay. Yeah, because I would like to get the weeder, and I would like to get the lime/fertilizing wagon. Those are the two big things that'll help with our yield. And I don't think we can do them both. Alright, so this is about 3/4 the way full, a little over. So let's see what we get. This load should net about 1,600. Yeah, it sounds reasonably on, like in the ballpark, yeah. Yep. 1770, I'd say that's about right. Which would imply, if I waited to the appropriate time, I'd probably make pretty close to 2,400. A little less. For that same amount of crop. And we'll hope we can catch any of these things on sale. Because I can get like a trailer on sale, or a weeder on sale, or ideally the fertilizer and lime wagon. Very ideally. Because how much do those cost again? They're down here. Yeah, so that's the one that does both. It's still so weird the bigger one doesn't do both. Well, I mean, that one can be made that big. I do wish they made something that was able to put down lime and that wasn't just the one vehicle. Or the one trailer. And I know there's mods that do that. Yep, so imagine with a full load, we should be making pretty close to 2,000 a trip. And that's where if you're talking about like going really fast, people be like, wait a second, but isn't just your greenhouses, aren't they making that like almost every day? Yup. Yup. Mm-hmm. That is one of the weird catches in the game. That very genuinely, like, the farming the fields and selling it just as the crop usually is not particularly lucrative. But it is those things that once you get that, then you get the thing to make it into flour, and each step, and it varies, but each step is roughly 1.5 the value of what you put into it, from what I've seen. So if I take, you know, the barley and it's 2,200 and I put it in to make it flour, then for that same volume of barley I get out of it, it'll be somewhere in the ballpark of like 3,300 or something like that. It's a shame the sell point is such a slow run. Yeah, well, when I get the trailer, we can go a lot faster, especially if I get the trailer on a semi, because then you can go like 50-something miles an hour, so it's way quicker then. But that'll end up costing us, depending on if I catch stuff on sale, like 70-ish thousand to start with, maybe 100,000. But yeah, so then you get to flour and you get like to 3,300, then you do like the flour to bread, and that's another like 1.5-ish. So you start getting up to, you know, $4,500 for what would have been 22 to begin with. You more than double. Or I think, no, it's like 1.75 the value. It's whatever. You get the idea. The cheap 6K trailer is the one you had last run? Yeah, towards the beginning, yeah. And the only reason I'm hesitant to buy it right now to help the process is just entirely because I want to try to get the weeder. Well, I mean, I still need it. Let's look at how much that carries, because I gotta consider like how much, because I do have to sell the stuff out of the silo. If I get the weeder and I accidentally goof and I can't get the stuff out of the silo because I don't have a trailer to put it in, then we're there. So we had the trailer. Yeah, so we started with that one. No, actually, I think no. We started with a truck on our Survivor Man challenge last time, and then I bought this one pretty early on, and then we eventually jumped up to one of these, and then we skipped all the way towards the end. 49 a pass. Yep, that's just about perfect. Oh, right. I totally forgot I was even checking. So 6K one. So that's 4 to 8 meters cubed. And if I remember correctly, that means it's 4 to 8,000 liters of stuff. Is that correct, or am I just doing my math wrong? Because 8 is what our harvester carries. And then this would be able to do like double or whatever. Sorry, 8,000 liters is what our harvester carries. Because I also don't want it to be a thing that when it comes to emptying the silo, that's going to take me 20 laps to empty it. Yeah, 1 meter cube. Cool. So I was correct. Cool. Yeah, so then definitely want to get one at least big enough to handle basically a load from this thing. Which means we're talking probably 12,000 bucks because it's the 6,000 with the upgrades or whatever. I have to figure that one out. That's those ones I don't have to commit to a decision until we hit September. When we hit September and I start cultivating, that's when I gotta decide, okay, am I buying the weeder? Because I'm buying the weeder, I'm buying it then. Whereas, well, actually, I mean, with the trailer, how much money do you spend planting the whole field? It wasn't that much. We did spend a decent amount on fertilizer. I didn't sit down and do the math, but I think we went through 2, maybe 3 crates of fertilizer. I don't think we went all the way through the 3rd one. And I think we went through about 2 boxes of seeds. So you're probably talking in the area of like 6,000-7,000. And then when you consider tractor maintenance, all that, between the plowing and the seeding and all that, probably 12,000-13,000 for all of the all the input costs, would be my guess. That's just off the cuff. So if each one of these passes is giving me, you know, a bit shy of 2,000, you know, there'll be that, and then we'll sell the rest for like an extra 50%. We definitely have made money. Not as much as I'd love to have made, but, you know, it's early game, horrible equipment. If you're trying to go fast and all that, you just... I mean, electrical generation is the cheesy way of doing it. The greenhouses are much better money. What I would probably want to do, for just making as much money as possible, is I would get the cheapest flour mill we can. You can get the little teeny tiny one for 36,000. It works really, really slowly, though. But for any of the stuff that came out of that, I would be taking that small subset of my barley and getting a bit more money out of it. I've debated back and forth if I am going to buy the 36,000 production things. Because on one hand, they do effectively act as a money multiplier for my goods. Yeah, so 22 for a full load. They do act as a money multiplier for my stuff, but the issue being they're just really slow on their production, so I'm still gonna have a huge surplus, which would imply either building a bunch of them, you know, but the moment I do that, I might as well build the big one. So that's where I'm going like this. Because I definitely think we're gonna be building a flour mill for the barley, but that Joker's way more expensive than it was in the last one, the big one. But that should be a lot of money for us when we get there. Right now, I think the move is to keep upgrading our equipment. You know, get all the processes so I can get, you know, close to 100% yield out. I'm probably not going to bother with the roller. It's like 2.5%. You know, you get into that point if you're not doing the thing to get the multipliers for like the flour and the bread and all that. I actually wonder if that 2.5% even pays for itself. Okay. I know I keep looking at this because I keep debating what I'm doing. So 36. 45. I definitely feel like I want to do the hoe first. Because that way I can cultivate, I can seed, I can hoe, we don't need to deal about the weeds. We'll be a bit shy on the fertilizer, which is honestly a bit of a concern. But then, you know, the next time I should be able to get some type of fertilizing thing to run around and fertilize the field. But we'll get that all sorted out. You know, then the next year we get the lime and the fertilizer wagon to deal with that. That gives me all of the processes I care about for getting the yield out of the field. Then from there to be going, you know, okay, get me the bigger seed. Well, I mean, the seeder and the cultivator I can't get bigger without the bigger tractor yet. But, you know, get me, you know, go after the bigger harvester, bigger tractor. That might be a point that we start putting in the flour mill. You know, and then after, like, the flour mill, we can pop down a bakery somewhere, get the maximum yield out of our barley. That would be around the point that we'd start looking at upgrading our tools even more. Or, I mean, probably upgrading our tools more. Because the next crop that we rolled with our little wheel was sugarcane. And sugarcane has its own seeder, has its own harvester. That was one of the reasons why we drew sugarcane. I was like, oh man. Because it's one of the crops that it has its own unique equipment for it. So I don't get a lot of overlap. It's fine, though. We'll also want to get like the spinnery and the clothing thing, get the big sheep barn instead of the one I've got. Which I'm thinking map-wise, that area down there by those trees, I own that. I'm thinking that's probably a good place to put a lot of stuff. Like, right now I've been tucking the silos and all that in the trees. When it comes to the actual buildings, I don't think that makes a lot of sense. But down there I can see putting the, like, the flour mill and all that. Getting sugarcane as the second crop was a really bad luck of the draw. Yeah, the only thing I would have been a bit more upset about is grapes or olives. Because the good news about sugarcane is at least sugarcane is relatively profitable. If I pull up, I've got the thing I did on the Discord where I did the calculations on how profitable everything was. And when I say did the calculations, I did tests. Which again, the P's are wrong because the P's I did before they got their update. And the good news is at least for the amount it costs you to do sugarcane, it is the 4th most profitable crop. So the good news there is it does make good money. Could have got beets. So you said beets. If it's the sugar beets are literally the most profitable crop. Now granted, the amount of equipment you need for them is just absolutely over the top. If it's red beets, they're actually center of the pack. They're tedious, but they're like right in the middle. So the good news is at least sugarcane makes decent money. Hey gamer, how's it going? Whereas like for example, oats and barley and wheat and soybeans and green beans and long grain rice are all within 100 of each other on their profitability. And so they all kind of tie for like 10 out of 14 on the chart I put together. Basically, all your grains except sorghum are on the 10th tier, and then the 11th tier has the sorghum. The real shame is how badly like poor canola got the raw deal on this version. I also think olives and grapes should pay more. For as much as they're a thing to deal with, I think they need to pay way more. Is it realistic? I don't care. For everything you have to do, and like the fact that it costs you like $200,000 to put down a decent sized grape orchard, it needs to pay more. You put them down, you realize it's gonna be like 30 things. Haven't they been nerfing cola yield for like the last 3 games? Seems like it. I didn't do 2019. 22 was my first one, but I remember a lot of people are pretty upset about canola being less profitable in 22 than it was in 19. And it's definitely less profitable in 25 than 22. Now granted, none of these things that I'm giving you the profitability have any consideration to production lines. And so you will have some of them that actually do, like my understanding is grapes actually do get, like grapes and olives actually do get relatively decent profit once production lines are in. Because canola was king in 17, you remember that? Yeah, so I could see them like nerfing it gradually. Because especially where it's such a simple crop to do compared to like a lot of the specialty crops. Because like right now looking at the list, the specialty crops are pretty much the entire upper half of the list. You know, you get into the weird spot of do you or do you not count peas as a specialty crop. It's like, well, yeah, kind of. But like, it is just a different harvester, but otherwise it works the exact same for the most part as any other crop. Spinach is the one I'm excited to mess around with. By my math, that's the second most profitable crop in the game. And by like a large margin between that and third. So I think after this trip, we're going to do a repair on the harvester. Just to make sure we're getting good yield. Because as its durability goes down, it will start penalizing what we harvest. So I want to make sure I keep it at a very low penalty. Yeah, that'll be, a service vehicle mod would be cool. Oh, like you could just have a service vehicle you can drive over to service stuff? I get behind that. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. Let's see. Not bad, man. Seeing you, stream pop up and figured you'd hang out. Well, thank you. I appreciate it, gamer. But yeah, now I can also see, like, the counter, the balance for, like, the service vehicle is, like, even if it doesn't cost you more to do it with the service vehicle in itself would also be another repair thing. So it could be one of those things that you're paying a little bit extra to repair the service vehicle itself as it runs around and services things, as your overhead, as it were. But I could see that being a thing, that you have a vehicle, you drive out there and you deal with it or whatever. Maybe it can only repair up to a certain percent or something like that as another possible limitation to it. So it can repair you to like 90%, but like you want 100%, you gotta take it back. There'd be ways to work in that. I think for me, I'd be more interested though in them focusing on new crops and all that, which is usually the answer always is like, but new crops, which I still hold true that what I want to see is I want proper orchards. I don't want olives and grape orchards. I want like apple trees, I want citrus, I want, you know, walnuts, pecans, like I don't care. Any or all of the above, but I want a proper orchard. Fingers crossed for Farm Sim 28. Well, I mean, we are going to get new crops because every time they come out with a game, like the base game gets its handful of new crops or trees or whatever you do. And then, you know, you get your season pass. It's got a bunch of equipment. They get like that last one, the expansion, where it gives you more new crops. So we should be getting at least 2 more waves of new crops in this version of the game. Like this Farm Sim 25, that is. So I am excited to see what we get with that. I would be very disappointed if, like, the new crop, they were like maize. And you're like, hey, don't lie to my face. That's just a different type of corn. Get out of here. Like, I would hope they do something else interesting. Especially we've got rice now, and that's been kind of an interesting thing. You hope they do something different than forestry for the expansion again? Yeah. Well, that's the thing. They did forestry for one of the expansions in 22, is my understanding. And then the other one is the vegetable crops. Like, you know, carrots, parsnip, all that. And then we got rice as the new, well, I mean, rice, spinach, and peas, and green beans in this one, which I'd say the rice is really the unique one. And so what it'd be like, they did forestry in 19 too? That, well, yeah, if they did forestry yet again, that'd be disappointing. The cinnamon, coffee, tropical fruit, I could go for that too. I could go for that. I could also go for them doing stuff like, well, I mean, this would fall under tropical fruit. I could see them do something like pineapple. Exactly, pineapple. Pineapple be an interesting one to see. I could see them doing something else exotic like prickly pear or dragon fruit. Prickly pear and dragon fruit would be a very interesting addition. Granted, in real life, you're not growing pineapple, prickly pear, or dragon fruit where it snows on any regularity. But hey, wait, lentils, beans, I go for those. You'd love to see crops like cranberries, chocolate, coffee. Oh yeah, like for chocolate would be a cacao, which is interesting because that's like a tree with a big sticking out pieces. So you could have like mango, papaya. Those would be very interesting to see how they would do that, because I don't know what they are. Most of those things you look at and you're like, well, clearly there's going to have to be some scalable machinery way of doing it. Yeah, I'm sure there's places where they go up with a machete and they hack it off the side and do that. But once you get to the commercial grade, a lot of those, they're going to have some kind of equipment. And I don't know what it is for half of them. Yeah, and like beans, lentils, I could see all those. We've talked about like aquaculture, that kind of thing. Could be an interesting change. So we'd get like a new animal of fish, but it'd be a weird thing where you kind of like put the fish thing near the other fields, and they would offset some of the fertilizer and all that. Banana trees. Bananas would be an interesting one because I'd like to see it, because like actual commercially grown bananas, for those who don't know about banana trees, bananas are a type of grass. They're not a tree. They're actually like a type of grass. We call them banana trees, and that's not me criticizing that. But as such, part of the way you grow them if you're trying to get high yield is you get your bananas for the year, and then you hack the thing down. You chop it down to a bit above its base and let it regrow again, because they grow relatively fast. And so it's why, like, bamboo. Oh man, I would be like, if they're gonna do another like lumberjacking kind of one, sure, bamboo, I'm willing to bite. If you want to say it's another timber one, bamboo, because it's an entirely different animal. You don't go up to a bunch of bamboo with a chainsaw and expect to get good results. Plant and harvest every month. Yeah, and then you also need like equipment to cut it back and try and contain it, because it's freaking bamboo, and bamboo is awfully invasive when you get it like in areas. Yeah, every day a new bamboo forest appears, and it's just, it becomes this constant war where you've got your bamboo out there on the east side of your farm, and you're just doing everything from like burning it to poisoning it to digging stuff up, and it just keeps moving. Chainsaw and bamboo is probably a sentence you'll never hear again. Yeah, it's not the right tool for the job. It's not the right tool for the job. There's a reason they use blades for it instead of like chainsaws. They'll use like what's effectively a glorified machete, just like you'd use something more akin of like a weed whacker style thing. New players having their games riddled with bamboo epidemics. Let's see, 30% of the world supply of lentils comes from Saskatchewan. Cool, I actually have no idea anything about like growing lentils. I actually know nothing about that plant. Like there's some plants I'm very knowledgeable about. That's not one of them. I could also, we've talked about this, I would like to see field strawberries. I'd like to see doing like, you know, peppers like, you know, we call them bell peppers here, but you know, capsicum peppers or capsicum peppers, like whatever you call it, doesn't matter. Like those style of peppers, like actually field crop, like tomatoes as an actual field crop, because those probably have some interesting equipment. Capsicum, yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's what they call them in like Australia and I believe New Zealand. You could do lawn, not like grass, but like lawn growing that you then dig out. Oh, like get the sod squares where you like grow the grass and then you do the thing where it just cuts it and you either sell it as like rolls or like basically like a bale of it, or like the squares. Flowers, I could see that. That would be a fun one. I feel like for Farm Sim they would make, you know, flowers, they would do that in a greenhouse. But like I could see, because I mean, we already have sunflowers, we just don't sell them as like flowers, because we do sunflowers, not. Yeah, like tulip farming, rose farming, industrial rose operation. The price goes ways up before going to zero. Oh yeah, no, it'd be like one of those things, like February rolls around, like December, February, and the price is just way up there. And then you hit like middle of the summer and you can't sell them at all. Like it's just an extreme price variance. You'll see crop breeding. Oh, that'd be an interesting. I feel like that's when you're talking like massive engine rework level stuff. So that'd be like an entirely new version of the game. I feel like if they did that though, the flowers, peppers, and tomatoes would be a very strong candidate for that. Because like yeah, you do it with all sorts of crops, but like there are few edible plants out there that have had more variety of stuff done to them than anything in that nightshade family, between again like the peppers, the tomatoes, and all of them. Like you just look at tomatoes and how many varieties there are and how many pepper varieties. Genetic modification, make Roundup become Monsanto. Don't worry about your own farm, just sue your neighbors if your seeds blow over there. Except for Brassica Valoria, the wild mustard plant. That's I could also see like herb stuff. Because like yeah, you think of like your herb garden, like the little thing there. But they do it commercially. So I'm assuming somewhere there is just this giant field of rosemary that they take some big harvester and they just plow through the whole thing, get all that rosemary. Turn that thing into broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, kale, Brussels sprouts. Oh yeah. There's a lot of, like that's the thing. Like if you were to do that kind of a mechanic, that's probably greenhouse level. I would agree. I feel like realistically in the game that would be a greenhouse thing. Like the flowers would be a greenhouse thing, and the herbs would be a greenhouse thing. Like in my fear is that they're like, well, this one we add hydroponics, and be like, it's a greenhouse. They don't specify what the greenhouse is. It's a greenhouse. Or like the vertical, like aeroculture, where it's like where they have the thing where it goes through and they spray the roots. It'd be like, yeah, they would just make that the greenhouse. You just see a plant in the corner that's got the roots hanging down. Which is fine. It's not super satisfactory. Like, it's not super satisfying, but at the same time, it's like, okay. You know, that's fair. Or for just a, just for fun, cashew would be fun. Because for those who don't know, cashew actually grows on something that's basically like a pear. It's just the skin is very thin. And they ferment extremely fast. So they don't ship well. But it's like literally like a pear with like the little cashew coming off the bottom. Honey maple syrup? Well, we have honey already. We do have honey. Maple syrup would be tapping trees. I wouldn't have a problem with tapping trees, but I'm not sure that would really, like that to me would be like when you have, you know, your 3 new crops and they add that one extra thing, like the extra thing they add to the greenhouse. That's where I'd put like maple syrup or something like that, where you just tap a tree and you just go back and you get your stuff off the tree later. They must make an alcohol from the fermented fruits too. I've heard there's such thing as cashew wine, but it's another one of those things I hear that they They just basically don't ship it anywhere. It'd be cool if the greenhouse is more interactive, though. Like, you could click on the planter to place seeds, clip package. That was, oh man, what was I think? There was one plant, I can't remember what it was. Like, oh, blueberries. We had discussed blueberries, being able to grow blueberries or other bush plants like blueberries, raspberries, those kind of things. And we had joked about, like, for a lot of them, they're still harvested by hand for various reasons. Not always. But, it's just one of those things that, like, it would kind of be funny to just go up and your character, you just walk up to the thing, you hold the button, your character's just doing, like, this kind of motion, and you get, like, your basket of blueberries or whatever. But I don't think they'll ever do it, because then if you put an AI worker on it, you got a bunch of people sitting here going like this, and that is one they gotta be real careful about, the way they make those workers look, to not have things get politically driven. Cranberries, it's just reverse rice harvest. Yeah, no, I actually thought when we got the teaser that we were getting rice, it's like, oh, we're clearly gonna get cranberries. It would be a little bit of a letdown. So it'd be a pro and a con if we got, like, the first expansion and cranberries were one of the ones there. It's like, okay, yes, I'm excited to have cranberries. Also, it kind of feels like you just took a mechanic you already had and doing stuff. Let's see, you mean it wouldn't be that much different than chainsaw with interactivity? Yeah, no, I don't think it'd be bad. My big fear with that was more the automation side of it. Because, like, if they weren't careful of how they depicted the farmers, it could make it uncomfortable. Now, granted, with the way they have their workers driving the vehicles, I think it's fine. Alright. So the good news is that took really not expensive to repair. I was worried that's gonna be like 1,000 some. Like, I don't think it's something they should avoid doing because of it or anything. It'd be one of those things, just be mindful of your decisions. Which, granted, they've done really well with it, so I wouldn't expect any problems. I do think I'd probably want... I mean, raspberries and that'd be fine. Maybe just because my bar for vine crops is already set really low with the grapes and the olives. Which, granted, olives aren't a vine crop, but in the game they treat it like, you know, it's a little tree, but they treat it almost like a vine the way you drive over it. My expectation for vine crop, like, or shrubbery crop, like raspberries, elderberries, blackberries, blueberries, all of those, is not high. Pumpkin, I could see pumpkin and squash and all those kind of things. Those would be interesting. I mean, heck, just give us more fruit. I was looking at our list here of what we have that's actually fruit on this list. Well, we got grapes. I think olives are a fruit, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And then we got strawberries and all that in the greenhouse. Let's see, you can run a seasonal pumpkin patch for a Christmas tree farm. Paired with visitors and hay rides. I'm not sure how they would set it up with Farm Sim, but I could go for something like that. Like, almost do like the farm tourism side of things, I suppose. Like this is like the straight up commercial farm, but you could have like that section of your farm that's like the tourist part of your farm. So you have like a small little field of this and a small little field of that, just so people kind of look at. You know, you get your pumpkins and whatever. Little petting zoo. So actually, low-key, I would be entirely on board with that. We already have a bunch of animals that would be fairly decent addition to that. Like, you know, we've got sheep and all that. I could, and goats, so I got like goats and sheep. I could totally see them giving like llama or a couple other little animals that you can toss into a petting zoo. I could see that. I feel like that one, the way they would handle it, wouldn't be something that would work on a map like this. I would see them more having like a map, and that map would have a petting zoo. So maybe not like the project things that we've had with like the temple and the museum, but like, you know, that'd actually be an interesting one. So like they have the petting zoo to begin with, but you get animals that you bring to the petting zoo to sell to the petting zoo. I could get behind that. I think that would be a pretty good one. It probably wouldn't be a huge dev thing either. It'd be just like the farmer's market where it shows the goods you add. But like if you brought sheep, then there'd be sheep in the petting zoo. If you brought goats, then there'd be goats in the petting zoo. If you brought chickens, there'd be chickens in the petting zoo, which would be a terrible petting zoo because chickens are awful. They will peck your hands. But you get the whole idea. That would be fun. I mean, they could also just have, like, the chickens off in their own little thing behind, like, the little fence or whatever. That'd be a fun addition to a map. Have a map that's one of these, like, farm towns or whatever, and they have, like, just this central area that's, like, their farmer's market, whatever, has a petting zoo at it. That, to me, wouldn't be a new crop situation, like, a new major thing, but it would be a nice like window dressing. I still demand that we be allowed to be able to make salsa. Like, give us the herb greenhouse so I can grow cilantro, and give us the orchard so I can grow limes, and then we can make ourselves some real proper salsa. Because we got tomatoes, we got hot peppers. We got onions. They're spring onions. They're not exactly right, but they'll do. Well, that's another one we could have. We could have plants like that. We could have like actual proper onions. Earthworms or compost? Well, I don't think they compost in like the traditional sense of compost on commercial farms. I do imagine they do take lots of green stuff and they churn it up in their soil and all that. But not like where you put it into a big thing and you have earthworms in it, I don't believe. What about an alligator farm? I actually know nothing about silkworms one way or the other to even have a clue. Because you never know what the future might bring. Next farms it might have some more modularity. Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing. I'd love to see where they take it. An alligator farm could be interesting. Like that, I could see that. I feel like the alligator farm would be right in line with the aquaponics, because if you're not seeing what an alligator farm is, it's basically an aquarium. It just doesn't have water as high. There's parts of it not in the water. They usually put like meshing on the bottom or whatever. Like it's a rigid mesh, but you know, something that the water can go through so they can sunbathe on that. They're also interesting because usually the way they'll do this, they'll keep like the little teeny tiny alligators in one area, like the adolescent gators in like the next area, and then when they start to get big, they have to usually take them out to a larger area, and that's, you know, that's when you stop having alligators and you start having alligator-based products. But I can see some interesting, like, that would actually be a thing, like some more exotically farmed animals. So not exotic as in, oh, that's a very strange animal to be farmed, but exotic as in, like, you know, it's not just chickens, cows, pigs, sheep, goats, but, you know, some more, I mean, you know, like some more like kind of out there that, you know, maybe only certain parts of the world they raise them kind of thing. Rat or monkey farms for the labs? Ooh, that would get very heated pretty quick. That would definitely get one that would have a lot of people making a stink over. You know, do something like pheasant. Might get a touch spicy for territory E rating. Yeah, so I'm thinking the way they can kind of work around that is like we don't butcher them or whatever. Emu and peacock farm, the most annoying farm possible. But like, I feel like the way they could get around that is instead of having, you know, you've got like your slaughterhouse or whatever, you sell meat or anything like that, you know, you raise pheasant and you can just kind of be like, okay, I maintained 30-something pheasants here, and that you sell the extra pheasants. Kind of like what you can do with like the sheep and the pigs and all that, that when you're full, you can be like, or even before you're full, you'd be like, all right, I want to sell 4 of these. But give us a way that's a little less manual. Because with the pheasants, you could still have them sell eggs as well. Emu, you could technically have them sell eggs as well for an exotic egg. Alligators, the alligators you use them for alligator. That's where we get there. But I feel like that's where like aquaponics gets you around that, where you can have a tilapia farm, and so you just sell tilapia. Sure, we all know you're selling them to be used as meat. But you know, you still sell them as tilapia. You don't butcher them or anything. That's for whoever's on the other side to deal with. You just sell tilapia. Alright, sorry about that, and thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. Just finishing my dinner real fast. It's been entirely too long. I could see you having alpaca, so you can raise them for wool. That could be a fun one. Like have a pen where you can have like alpaca and llamas together, because those are 2 animals that'll basically leave each other alone. So that way you can get a different source for wool. Yeah, it'd still be wool, but just bring more in there. It's the same thing where you can get milk from the goats and the cows. Could have a server farm? Yeah, no, I debated spinning up a server for Farm Sim 25. Like, it really went back and forth. Ultimately, the fact that I spun up the previous one for 22 and it kind of got low traffic, you know, it was just one of those ones that kind of was like, I'm leaning towards the no. I'm not against it, but I haven't had a lot of people be like, oh yeah, I really want to see it. Ostrich would be neat. Yep, ostrich are pretty cool. Oh, server farm, like, in the game, like... Look, so you just have your, like, entire agricultural farm, you just have, like, that one building with 13 AC units on the roof just blasting away at full bore because it's just full of a bunch of servers. Excellent. You also have to have a cryptocurrency farm while you're at it. For the record, I am not someone who is like, get crypto. Quite the opposite. It's no. You can do what you want with your money, but that is something I don't support these days. Secondhand selling all your full unit. Yeah, it's just running crypto and the sell price goes all over the place. It's basically the exact same thing as buying the it's basically the exact same thing as buying like the windmill, except for instead of getting steady good money every month, it genuinely like just rockets. Like some months you'll literally lose money from running it. Other months you'll get a bunch of money from it, and you never know where it's gonna land. So it's very effectively like buying buying lottery tickets or something like that. You just, well, I mean, not even buying lottery tickets. It's very much just gambling 100%. You know, just throwing your money into the pot, flipping a coin and being like, did I get to make a bunch of money or did I just lose it all? Alright, we're getting down to the home stretch. Most of this field is done. Well, it could be a data center employee simulator. Yep. I mean, to be fair, a long while back, this is probably 2 years back, I get a bunch of keys given to me because, you know, a content creator, like, you get partner, you get decent viewership, and very genuinely, a lot of the keys are garbage. A lot of the keys are shovelware where they've just reused assets, and the game has like no life or charm its own. A lot of them will even do the thing where their names are very clearly designed to be mistaken as the more popular game. You know, really kind of the sketchy stuff. But you get a whole bunch of stuff, and sometimes you get some meme games. You're like, what the heck is this? And I get a lot of crap that's like NFTs and cryptocurrency stuff that I'm like, I'm not touching that. And I don't even remember why, but there was this game I got, and it was like, oh man, what was the name of that game? It actually was relatively decent. No, that's not what I want. Don't do that. Crypto Miner Tycoon Simulator. That's the one. Crypto Miner Tycoon Simulator. I was like, haha, I'm gonna go ahead and I'll play this game for like 1 hour. We'll all make fun of how dumb it is. You know, I don't normally do that, but, you know, it's just like, you know, I was getting lots of these crypto things, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to grab this one, because, like, you know, it was free. They were giving me the key. I was like, I'm going to grab it. We'll play it. It'll probably be absolutely terrible. We'll kind of make fun of it, and we'll move on. And it was actually relatively okay. I won't go so far as to say it was good, but it was sort of Game Dev Tycoon-esque, except crypto mining. That you would run, like, you get your employees and you get your data center and all that. And like it got long in the tooth mid-game and all that. So it definitely needed more polish and more time to bake. But I'm like, you know what? Here I was getting ready to just dumpster this poor game because I was just getting annoyed with how many of these were being thrown at me. And then, like, this one's actually not bad. Hey, fun, how's it going? But, would I recommend buying it? No. No, but it is one of those things, like, if you had an opportunity to get, like, a free copy, it's actually interesting. I don't imagine they've done a lot of maintenance. Let me look and see when the last time they updated that game, because I'm pretty sure it was early access. That feels like the kind of game that goes early access and will never, ever, ever leave it. Like, it will be abandoned. Let's see. Crypto Miner Tycoon thing. Last played in 2023. I mean, it hasn't had an update in a little while, but it's not been super long either. July, it still seems like it's being maintained. July's, like, when you have an update, like, back in July as your last major update, it's like, okay, you know what? July, August, September, October, November, December. That's a good couple of months for a major update. But if we're looking at a lot of early access games, you know, some of them, they drop an update, like, every month. But I would say the bulk of them, usually it's, like, once a quarter, once half a year for most of them. Still, would I recommend it? The answer's still no. The answer's still no. Maybe it was like $5 or something like that, but yeah. But the whole point was I went into this whole thing expecting the game to be outright awful because of just all the marketing around it was just not good. And then it's like, oh, actually, I'm actually having a relatively good time with this. Hang on. This isn't how this is supposed to go. Yeah, update frequency is entirely dependent on team size. Yeah, and the like ambition of what they're trying to accomplish and yada yada, which I would say this one's not super ambitious, which is fair. There's nothing wrong with that. There is actually something to be said about teams saying, hey, we got these resources, this is what we want to achieve, and here's our roadmap to achieve it, and just executing on that well. That's really good. Like, if you ever want like a really fun, just charming game that you're probably gonna get like 8, 12, 15 hours out of, so not a lot, there's a game called Unpacking. I played it twice on the stream. Really good game. But it is some of the best environmental storytelling I've seen in a game. And it's a weird game because it's not really a puzzle game, but like it's just you follow this person's life by unpacking their boxes. So you'll I won't spoil any of the later stuff, but like the very first room is their childhood bedroom. And so you unpack their boxes and put their little toys on their shelf and all that. And it's just, as the game goes on, you'll see new items show up in their stuff. Some items go away. You get to see them, like, when they move from this house to that house. Like, you can go, okay, well, I think this is what's going on in their life. Oh, no, clearly that, looking at that photo, clearly this has happened. And there's, like, really, really wild. The music's fun. And it does a really good job of it gets in, it tells its story, you have really fun mechanics. And before you have an opportunity for those mechanics to go stale, they're like, okay, it's all good. So it does a really solid job. But that's definitely a game where they're like, this is what I want to achieve, this is the story I want to tell, here's how I want to tell it, and I'm going to execute. And they did. And it is an absolutely charming and wonderful game. Like I said, still only like 12, 15 hours total. And that's if you go after achievements. Like probably 8 hours if you just play through it once. So not a long game, but I don't think that's a bad thing. Actually, very genuinely these days, with not having as much time to be able to sit down outside of stream and play games, I really enjoy games that I can just hop into and knock out in a day or two, because it is very difficult outside of stuff I stream, that stuff that fits this content, to really enjoy games. There's a lot of amazing games that I've just missed out on, or like new updates to games I've loved that I just don't have the time. And when you look at this game and be like, oh hey, well I'm gonna burn 200-300 hours on that game, and it's very story rich, so if you step away you don't remember what the heck is going on. And it like literally I won't start it because I just know I don't have the time, so there's no point. Which is one of the things I feel like Farm Sim does really well, is it's one of those games that's very easy to be like, you jump in, you play a bunch, and then you stop playing for a couple of weeks or whatever. It's no big deal. You hop in and go, oh, I was working on this field. No problem. And I've got that field over there. Like, you can look at the map and kind of just do like a quick once around, maybe take 5-10 minutes to just do a little survey of your farm, be like, cool, I know exactly what's going on. Let me go ahead and work on these. Maybe you don't remember the next tool you're planning on buying or whatever, but you can kind of look at the board and see what the situation is and go, okay, I can move from here. Versus you're playing something like Stellaris and you step away for 2 or 3 weeks and you go, who are these people? What are our alliances with each other? What's the situation in the map? Was there someplace I had to worry? Oh, apparently I'm at war. And just trying to make heads out tails of what's going on. Alright, I'm going to sneak off one last time to use the restroom real fast. I've been drinking entirely too much water, and that's what's going on. I'll be right back. Don't worry, I'll harvest their field too. Okay. Is there a reason why you're not buying a grain cart? Just curious. Oh, I'm basically really short on money, so at $39,000, I am going to need to get the weeder. I also need to get the thing for lime. I also need to get the thing for fertilizer, and I do also need to get the a trailer as well. So I'm hoping to catch them on sale. But yeah, no, I really do need one. But we're almost done with this. We'll get this done today. So we're making today from the barley. I am probably making, with the stuff we're selling, close to somewhere in the area of like $12,000. When it comes to, we've taken 75,000 liters and we put in a silo for selling when it's at peak price, which is when I will have to have a trailer in December. That should fetch me another probably $20,000+ as well. 30,000, whatever. That's gonna be a whole thing. Yeah, no, it should be around 25,000. No, actually, I'm not even counting for the multiplier. Yeah, it'll be about 30,000 actually. Do the neighboring farms ask for help? So you have what's called contracts, which is basically that, where they will be like, this guy has like dead trees on his property he wants to cut down. This person wants help harvesting. That one wants you to spray his crops. This one wants you to pick up some logs. So yeah, there is contracts. This is a modded map, so it doesn't have nearly as many contracts as your not modded maps. The not modded maps will easily have 10, 12 contracts most days. When you get to the winter, they start to get pretty scarce because there's just not as many things that need doing. But you get like to like right in the fall or right in the spring when all the crops need to be planted or harvested. And that's just where you'll have 12+ contracts going there at any time. That's actually the way I recommend people who are brand new to the game. You know, you do your little tutorial where it shows you how to attach stuff and, like, you know, harvest a field or whatever. Usually what I'll recommend, the next thing you do is once you get out of that, just do a bunch of contracts. You know, go, let me try peas, what do I think about peas? Let me try spinach, what do I think about spinach? Let me try carrots, oh god, why? Let me try this. You know, try a bunch of different contracts, get a bunch of money. You'll start to get familiarity with, like, different crops. If you pay close attention, you'll actually notice there'll be a field. They'll like look at the field, you'll plow the field, and then later on it'll be like, okay, well, seed the field. Okay, later on we'll weed the field. Okay, well, later on harvest the field. And you'll start to get an idea of like the order of operations. It's not perfect. I do really wish they, and first, before I get into that thought, thank you for the follow, welcome to stream. But I do really wish in the tutorial, instead of doing it the way it is, where it's like, here's how you do this, here's how you do this, here's how you do this, go away. I do really wish they would be like, oh, you know, oh, Sonny, we've got your little farm here. You know, your grandmother always wanted me to grow the canola. You know, the whole time we just didn't, but, you know, by goodness, I think we should do it for her this year. All right, well, to do that, the first thing we need to do is we need to plow the field. Okay, cool. Like, and obviously I don't want them to hold your hand the whole way through it. But you get the idea. They'll be like, plow that field. Cool. You know, go off, do a contract or two, and see me, you know, see me tomorrow. And then you come back tomorrow and goes, okay, well, you plowed that field. It's time for you to seed the field. So you'd seed the field. Cool. See me tomorrow. All right, well, now you can go ahead and, like, we got to make sure these weeds don't become a problem, so weed the field. Cool. See me tomorrow. You get the idea here. So instead of just arbitrarily grabbing like 3 or 4 tasks, I would rather they have you just go through and like kind of take you through, like, even if it's a full in-game year or whatever it is, choose something very fast. Make it oats. I want to say you plant oats and like it's only 4 or 5 months later you harvest them. But you get the idea. Do something that's really fast. You can put in the ground, get it through, and teach the player like, here's the steps. Because once you taught them one type of field, you're good. Because sure, if you're doing oats and then you turn around you do rice, they're different. But you still at least have that basis to start with. And then you can, you know, go to the help page and find your stuff and yada yada. But it's just, really a thing that you'll do like the tutorial and it just drops you in, and you're like, man, I don't even know how to do a field yet. You showed me what a shovel is, but you didn't tell me when to use it. Something like Farmer's Dynasty? I'm not familiar with that one. Is that a game I should be checking out, or is that like just another one out there? But yeah, that's actually like my big thing I would say is for new players really lacking in the Farm Sim series is that their tutorial really doesn't give you what you need to get started. And like I said, I'm not saying they need to hold your hand in every step of the way or anything quite like that. And you can always just not do the tutorial, just like you can right now. You can just choose to wholly ignore it, which is totally fine. But just there should be a path that isn't going to like wiki pages and forums and going through like videos and how-to guides on how to just do a field, or just trying to like suss out by looking at contracts the order things are happening, or just happen to already know like actual real life farming. Like there should be a way in game to be like, hey, you should do this, that, like not necessarily this, that, here's the thing you can do, here's the thing you can do, here's the thing you can do. You do have to do this after that step. You learned a lot from YouTube videos. Well, that's the thing. Right now, if you're not watching, like, very genuinely without content creators, whether it's, you know, writing guides or YouTube videos or content creators on like streaming or whatever, without those, I wonder how well Farm Sim would be doing just by the sake of how many people would try and figure the game out and go, I have no idea what's happening. Let's see, well, it is like Farm Sim, but it also has a focus on family and friendship making. Gotcha, interesting. You know, I haven't checked it out. Yeah, so I probably got 2 more laps to do with this thing, and then we'll likely have this field all done. Which would be good. And we've got good money here. Like, with selling all this, it is possible. Trial and error and the in-game help manual. Yeah, for me, because I was streaming it, I don't remember exactly what I went through. I remember I did the tutorial, and that was fine. And I would say what probably carried me was a lot of, like, chat where, you know, I've done a lot of things with... So, like, I have no background with commercial farming, and I don't know... Like, the things I've learned is things that people have told me about, which is very different than practical on-hands experience and yada yada. But, as someone with ADHD, one of my hyper-focuses I had for a pretty long time was gardening. And so, there is a lot of stuff so far as... I know I need to, like, aerate the soil, which would be what you do with plowing and all that. I know I need to, like, add the various fertilizers to the soil, which granted a lot of times I would do that earlier, but, like, when I go to plant the, you know, whatever I'm planting. And so I did all that stuff, but that doesn't translate. Like, I don't know the equipment you use on the commercial level to do those things, and there's extra considerations you have in commercial farming that as a home gardener, I'm not gonna do. There's, like, on my scale, I'm not gonna do. But, like, so I had the basic concept of, like, okay, I put the plant in there, you know, in real life you would potentially weed beforehand to get your weeds out there, you'd plant your plant, and then as you notice weeds, you deal with it, but commercially, that doesn't make sense. Like, that's not practical. See, tonight you learned you can directly sell from the combine. You've always used trailers. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's really fun. If you want to have a truly cursed and awful time with these challenges, instead of one of these where you have this on the outside of the building, wait till you have them on the inside. It is real interesting to try to sell grain at like the grain mill or whatever, when you would have to pull in with your trailer and dump it out the back onto the grate. Yeah, Calmlands. Calmlands is a spicy map when you don't have a trailer because of money. And figuring out how the heck you wedge that harvester in there at an angle you can get that arm to manage to get over that grate. That took me a solid, like, half hour trying to finagle that. That was brutal. I did that one on the YouTube series I did. That was rough. There was a lot of driving in from this side, trying to like wedge it, and using the arm to shove me against, away from the wall just to try and barely get it over there. Yeesh. But yeah, no, like figuring out through trial and error is a little rough, especially with some of the stuff. If you don't give yourself lots of leeway and flexibility, it can be tough. Like having either friends who know, or again, in my case, like I've got an audience there's people who've played the game when I was first learning. Like that certainly helped me. That's what I'm thinking was the thing that got me through. Is I probably figured out like I need to plow, I need to put the seeds down. At some like I don't think I even put fertilizer down at the beginning. I'm pretty sure I didn't do that. I didn't roll. I think I did actually roll because it says needs rolling. I was like, okay, well clearly I need to do this, and I looked for a roller and I did it. But like knowing when to fertilizer was one thing that took me a while because it just like I don't know. Let's see, any teleport with the roof over the dump point is a pain to deal with. Yeah, because even nothing else, you get into the war with the camera. The camera's the final boss in so many games. Yeah, no, so I remember I started doing, like, I got into Farm Sim 22 because of Dare Drop. Like, they did a Dare Drop, and like, cool. I know people like this game, and I'm curious. And so I was like, alright, let's check it out, and people had fun with it on the channel. And I was like, alright, well, I did the tutorial one, and I'm not, like, it's fine, like, I had fun with that, but, like, I really want to do something different. I don't want to just do contracts to the tutorial map. And that was the point, because the reason they did Dare Drop is that was when Silver Run Mountain got added. And all of that stuff. I was like, I want to do this one where we could cut down trees. And I don't know how many 100 hours we spent on that map cutting down trees. It was a lot. It was so many. And like, I was cutting down the trees and it would clear out an entire area and I'd put a field on it. I think in the entire time we played, I had like a good 3 or 4 harvests, and I think that might have been it, because all the rest of the time was cutting down trees. I probably am underestimating. We probably had more harvests. But I remember I took like 2 of the largest tiles on the map, and one I made into a giant cotton farm that I only harvested maybe once, and the other one I made into a giant canola farm. All the rest of that time was spent cutting down trees and then getting rid of the stumps so I could clear more farmland. And for the record, a lot of people just really enjoyed tuning in for it. It was just relaxing stuff. We ran to all sorts of cursed physics to keep people entertained. I definitely got drugged down the entire length of the railroad track at one point because one of the trees on the back of my truck snagged on the train itself and just pulled me along the whole way. And then we stopped doing that and we did the Survivor Man challenge in No Man's Land. And that's literally the only 3 runs I did that. Sounds like a good time? It was. And like, people really enjoyed it. Like, don't get me wrong, eventually it did finally get to the point where I'm like, you know what? I think I'm good on the tree cutting for a while. There was definitely a couple of people who were starting to be like, you know what? I've been having fun with this, but I think it's time. I think it's time we did something different. But yeah, then I did No Man's Land Survivor Man Challenge. It's the same challenge we're doing here. And I had a lot of fun with that. That's literally what I did for the entire, like, I did that for like a year in Farm Sim. Which, for the record, I do play a whole range of games. I've been playing a lot of Farm Sim right now because 25 just dropped. But like, you know, we started the stream with RimWorld till the colony, well, the second colony died. Hey, S2D Vitez, how's it going? Had a lot of fun with RimWorld, even though it definitely was a day of Cassie just being a jerk, like Cassie do. We played some Path of Exile 2 the other day, and I mentioned earlier in the stream that yesterday I came back and I was like, you know what? I'm very mixed on Path of Exile 2. Like, the graphics are stunning, the sound is stunning, the mechanically thing is absolutely excellent. Like, all of, like, the execution on all that was good, but it was, like, absolute famine for loot. Like, I knew, like, I've seen, like, the loot be low, but it's, like, literally I was going through entire, you know, a number of hours would go by and I wouldn't get a single thing I could upgrade. And that was using currency to upgrade or, like, an actual item drop. So, like, the progression really didn't feel good there. And that I felt like I was constantly in this battle, even with the weakest enemies. That's, like, I could one-tap the really weak ones, but, like, even the white enemies, which are, like, normal enemies that are, like, not the squishiest of squishy, I felt like I had to set up combos just to fight them. And it was like, I was already going, you know what? I am already actually getting, you know, this is getting boring and tedious to me. But what I did end up doing was after yesterday's stream, I was like, you know what? Like, I hopped onto my character I've been working on, which is the warrior. And I'm like, you know what? And I fought with the boss a couple times, killed it. I'm like, you know what? This still doesn't feel good. Let me just try playing a different character. Let me just play a different character, because the balance is kind of all over the place. But let me see if it's just warrior problems. And so normally I don't usually play characters like, you know, sorceress or whatever. It's just usually not the archetype I tend to enjoy. But for whatever reason, I was like, you know what? Let me try sorceress. You know, because I messed with witch on stream. I messed with the warrior off stream. I don't really like Dex characters, so I was gonna leave just like the ranger. I didn't enjoy at all in the previous one. I know they're super powerful if done right, but it's just not my play style. The mercenary feels like, to me, it's gonna be more like the ranger. And the monk I'm not sure, because its whole thing is like, you can set up combos, like, but combos are the thing I'm saying I'm not enjoying. So I chose the sorceress as the last one. And for one is I think they behind the scenes buffed the loot, like 1.5 to 2 times the loot. So I was seeing better loot. And while I'm still very early on, it didn't feel like I had to set up combos with the sorceress. Like, I could, and it would give me extra oomph. But, like, it felt like I could do a lot of stuff where I could just not set up combos and just do straight up damage, and it'd take maybe a couple extra hits, but otherwise not a big deal. So, like, the rubbish enemies I could kind of get through pretty quickly. Which may literally have just been because of the items. And then the bosses were interesting because of the warrior. Like, I would just kind of circle around the bosses to avoid attacks until, like, a circle comes out and I'd run away from it. You know, and repeat. Versus being at range, like, the entire threats are entirely different. So I'm still going, you know, I think it'll be a good game, but I think it's gonna have a lot of adjustments and tweaks it has to make. Yeah, so we are making really good money with this, it's just taking time. And that's size of harvester that's hurting us. But I'm feeling pretty good that we might be able to get the weeder and something to put down fertilizer. Potentially. I'll worry about the fertilizer, I mean, unless I catch one on sale. I'll worry about getting something to put down fertilizer if I get to there and I've got the seeds down and I've got some money to spare. I keep saying that and then remembering I need the tipper. It might just be we don't get good fertilizer this round. We'll only be at 50% from the fertilizer built in the cedar. Which means I'm glad I saved like the extra 10,000 to get the one with the ability to put down fertilizer with it, because otherwise it'd be sitting at like next to no fertilizer. But my hope is we'll catch stuff on sale. And by catching it on sale, then I don't have to worry about any of those issues. And just get it on discount. We've actually had relatively good luck this time. Like, early on, we didn't have much luck. But, like, we got the harvester and its header on sale. I got a larger water tank on sale for dealing with the sheep and all that. The mower we didn't, the seeder we didn't, the plow we didn't, the cultivator we got on sale. So yeah, we've had some pretty good luck with the sales. You're about to say just lease one, but then you remember there's no lease in the challenge. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's, like, very genuinely, if we weren't doing the challenge, we were just doing hard economy, like, for a lot of these steps it'd be like, oh, I need this piece of equipment, just lease it, get the job done, cancel the lease kind of thing. Like, for the trailer, I'd just lease it, do all that. I mean, that one I'd probably do all that, sell everything, cancel the lease, and then buy the trailer from that point. Because also with like that, with the harvester, I would lease out, probably not the biggest harvester, or just eat a lot of into the profit, but get a relatively decent sized harvester. And, you know, blast through this much faster. And again, then the idea is, you know, you do that once or twice, and then you can afford to buy the thing as opposed to leasing it. I assume you buy it with the intention, you don't buy with the intention to sell as well, typically. There is an argument with the sugarcane to potentially do that, but I'll probably buy it and just keep it. Even if it just sits in the corner for a long time, that's fine. I still haven't established where I'm gonna put the sugarcane either. Because buying a new tile of land is gonna be a thing. We'll definitely want to get the flour mill off the ground pretty early. How much was the flour mill? Wasn't it like 180,000? Yeah, the grain mill. Ah, you're 288,000? Don't do that. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so there's the cheap ones. Yeah, the grain mill's 288,000. That is rough. That is real rough. Yeah, they made these like middle ones, and just with them making the middle ones, the price of the big ones just went way up. So I get the tiny one for 36,000. Is the plan to keep the fields going permanently, or just once and be done with it? Oh, keep them long term. Yeah, no, we'll do this, because what'll end up happening is once I get the really big equipment, this will go fast. And it's also those things that, like, I could sit there and be like, okay, you know, set this thing out to do its harvesting and all that, and then I go over, you know, start working on planting the sugarcane, or like, not necessarily planting, it's probably the wrong season, but, you know, clearing the area for the sugarcane, or picking up the pallets from one thing to the other. Like, I'll have other things I can work on while it just drives back and forth. So it ends up being a thing that becomes way less me having to sit there and watch and work on every single part of the field myself, but being able to, like, you know, deviate people to different, you know, deviate the workers to different stuff while I go and work on stuff as well. Now, I imagine there was a crop that I was just simply really not having a good time with. I could see eventually, you know, getting out of it. But at least with the way I've been doing the wheel, as I kind of said, I was going to have to get, like, that crop set up to producing stuff with production lines. The production line being, like, 288,000 to get the grain mill is pretty rough. That's pretty rough. We might end up getting the little ones to start off with. wonder if they changed the economy scaling behind it. Because, like, I know I'm very confident that on the same settings in Farming Simulator 22, the grain mill was not that much. I don't remember what it actually was, but I feel like if it was 288,000, I would have basically been like, oh hell no. Now, granted, at 1.5 times your profit, it's worth doing. Because let's say I'm making, I don't know what the actual amount, if I sold everything at the thing. Art feels pretty similar to you in S22. Well, yeah, no, like the crop selling and all that, I would agree. The only thing that's caught me is like, it might not even be a hard saying. It might literally just be that they've the grain mill in 22 is like, oh sorry, try 3. Yeah, 22 is like 100 to 150. Yeah, I thought it was like 100 to 120,000. So I think what literally that's happened is they introduced the lower tier and then they bumped up the price in the higher tier. Which is fine. But just kind of those things are just getting yourself like a little bit like sticker shock, being like, oh, you real expensive. And all things considered, where it's like that 288,000 or whatever it is, it's like that's a lot of money, but also that's not necessarily a hard to get a hold of amount of money, especially if you're not doing this challenge. Like if you're doing the challenge, it's very realistic to easily make like, you know, 100, 200,000 in a year without super big issues. And that's not even with getting in with cheesing stuff. Because, I mean, we're looking at the amount of grain I sold here. We're getting not quite to like 20,000. And I'm expecting to get like another 30,000+ out of what's in the silo. So that's 50,000 now. Just from one field. And if we do the thing where it's 1.5, that's 75,000. You know, it doesn't take very many years. Like, yeah, it's like 10 years with what we've got. But all things considered, with all the stuff you'll end up doing, 10 years can go through the game relatively quickly. Like, it would be going much faster if I had the better equipment. Like, that'll be another thing that picks up. Because this is one of those things that realistically, when you play the game, you have like 2-3 days. But see, not leasing is probably the biggest challenge, to be honest. It really lets you ramp up faster if you are allowed. Yeah, no, absolutely. Or if not leasing, loans would also do the same thing. Same basic objective. And yeah, I could do the cheesy thing of buy the thing, use it, and sell it as effectively a lease. Sometimes, though, like, that can be, like, very expensive, you know, equivalent to a lease. Alright, and with that, that'll be the last of the barley. And then we sell that, we patch up our harvester, and that's it for harvesting this year. We will get to September, and then September I would run the cultivator. I would then run the seeder, and then after the seeder, I would run the hoe that we're going to buy, so that I can get rid of all the weeds. And that's the thing I always keep forgetting, is if I seed the plants and immediately hoe it, does that prevent the weeds entirely? Or do I have to wait the next day to then run the hoe? That's I never remember, because I almost never ran the weeder, I always ran the spray. I did the herbicide the last time. You think that works for sprayers? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to remember with the weeder, what the requirement was. Basically, I want to make sure. Hoeing weeds the next day thing. Yeah, I mostly want to make sure I'm not taking any penalties from the weeds. Which that'd be good, because that hoe goes like 2.5 times the speed and is relatively a similar size, and then I don't have to empty out. So we can just zip around back and forth and take care of it. The sprayer, the advantage, you could get that thing that's like 30 meters wide and spray like, you know, entire chunks of the field at the same time, which is its big advantage. But it gets pretty weird and all that. Alright. I should have checked the tally of how much money I had before I started harvesting, but that's okay. I'm not super worried. I'm very confident we're turning a profit, and probably a pretty good one. Alright. So we got ourselves a fully harvested barley field. It's probably your favorite tool in the game. I honestly find a lot of the tools that let you drive relatively fast. It was a bit over 20,000. Yeah. You can see how much you sold today? Oh yeah, that's probably a good idea. We can check right after I sell this. And that'll give us an idea of the money we put in there. And then when it comes to repairs, we're only about 1,000 in, not quite for the harvester. I imagine by the time we're done with this gas up repair, we're probably pretty close to 1,000. So take the total minus $1,000 for, you know, gas and repair. And then there will also be all the maintenance we did in the tractor from plowing and all that, because that was ridiculously slow. So that ended up costing us a pretty penny to plow the field. But that's not accounting for the 75,000 liters still in there, which we'll sell in December when it's at peak profit. Because that's the other reason I was like, if we get the grain mill, the grain mill can hold a lot of capacity of grains in it. So that gives me effectively a larger silo. It can dump all the grain in there, and then it processes it through to make the flour, and then we would figure out what day the flour's worth the most and sell the flour then. Or depending on the range, how much does the flour's price range? Ooh, $300 different? Yeah, we would wait. We would wait till best price. $300 different? $250, $300? Yeah, that's waiting to peak market to sell it, not selling it as you go. That's a real big difference. Because there's some items it's like, what's peak to lowest? Oh, it's $20 difference. Like, Like silage is one. It's like, what's the difference in price? It's like a couple of bucks from the high to the low. You're like, yeah, you know what? I'll sell when I feel like it. It doesn't matter. Alright, and that is the last of the barley sold for right now. That can be deceptive. Low difference often means really large numbers. Yeah, no, that's definitely a thing you gotta consider. The big thing you want to consider though is like the ratio on the stuff. Like if it's $1 difference from 10 to 11, that's a 10% price difference. But like if it's $1 difference from 1 to 5, that's 20%. That 5 is a much bigger deal. All right. So we were going to check statistics real fast. Our finances. So stuff we sold today. So we sold $25,000 worth of barley today, and it's still got our 75,000 liters inside the building over there. We also sold some products, which would be our greenhouses, if I'm not mistaken. We also sold some animals today. We did spend $20,000 building the silo. So we did pay for the silo in full. Made more money off the barley than the silo took into it at all. I think we literally are going the wrong way. So we did manage to make ourselves some solid money from that. All of our repair costs and everything for the whole thing, that $25,000 probably covered it. So hopefully we'll get a lot of money out of the remaining stuff here. Yes, this is another $100-ish in gas. Are you playing alone? Yep. It's not never that I play multiplayer, but it's pretty rare. You want to do it's usually collabing with other creators, that kind of thing. But we put up servers once in a while. It's very rare though. Do you use AI helpers? Yes. Right now you won't see me using very many because we are playing on the hardest economy settings and don't really have adequate tools, which means if I use them, they will just ruin me financially. But once we start getting larger tools that are a bit more able to be profitable with an AI helper, I will use more AI helpers. Alright, so we are moving on from June to July. September is when we plant. So I'm mostly just trying to get through these months, see if we get anything good on sale before we get to planting month. Nope, nothing this month. And we can check out our sheep. They look like they're gonna need water soon. That's probably still just fighting this water spot. Cool. So we got them topped off. All right. So this will take us to August, and just double checking to make sure I'm not making a really big mistake. Yeah, September. All right. So I can advance the month again. Because I'm hoping we'll get one of the good weeders. I prefer that we get the hoe more than anything else. But a weeder would do in a pinch if it's one of the bigger ones. I mean, cool and all that, but now I'm looking for. Checking the animals. You're all good. Check on those. They're getting low, but they're still fine. So this puts us into September. Which again is when we have to finally make our decision about doing a lot of this stuff. So we'll see where our money's at and make our decisions. So we're at 56,000. We did not get anything useful for that regards. Those need to be topped off, and the sheep are doing fine. What I'm going to go ahead and do here is we're going to top off our greenhouses real fast. I'm not going to begin the cultivating and doing the whole field and all that right this second. We're getting pretty close to the end of stream. And if I open that can of worms, that's going to be some time. I do see that the field is covered in weeds. As it do. All right. So then the hope here, well, I mean, the good news is in an absolute pinch, if I have to, I can get like the little $6,000 trailer. It'd be pretty awful to have to drag all that barley over to the sell point using a tiny trailer. But that's the worst case scenario. I do think we like plant everything today, get it all set up. Not today, like I think. You trying to take off? Absolutely. Who says a tractor can't fly? What stage are the weeds at? I don't know. I actually don't know much about the weeds things because, like I said, I usually just sprayed and didn't have to worry about it. Weed large. But it's not cultivated yet. Only works up to me, but that's fine. I'm going to cultivate it. When I cultivate, they're going to go away.
Hello there.
Hey, Bentley, how's it going? Yeah, so we'll cultivate it, and then the next day we will roll it, we'll hit it with the hoe. Well, I mean, we'll cultivate it, we'll seed it, then the next day we'll hit it with the hoe. I might actually try and run the hoe anyways the day before and just see if it works. I'm doing pretty good. You know, I realize it's not supposed to, but like, that would be nice if I could just do the 3 processes real fast and then go about my day. If it's the next day, it's the next day, that's fine, but it'd be nice. Yeah, because we got a baler and we got a windrower for the sale today. We can hold out to the next in-game day to actually buy the hoe. I'll not worry about doing it this day. We'll see if we have it the next day, because we never know when you get a sale. And I mean, worst case, I might be able to get it and then a trailer on sale or whatever. The thing that's gonna be a little tricky is that I could very easily see myself, if we get a good sale, accidentally buying a trailer that's too big for this tractor to handle. Hopefully that's not a big concern. It probably won't be, because I probably wouldn't be able to afford it. The big thing that's going to suck is just the fact that this is only going to be a 50% fertilized harvest, because unless I manage to snag a really cheap fertilizer, whatever, it's just not going to happen. Alright. We got that dropped off. I remember you did not watch that part. You wrote join and then went to sleep. Well, it was starting a new colony the next time we play. It was kind of a rough day dealing with Cassie. It was fun, but also Cassie was being particularly mean today. She was in a very salty mood from the way we could tell. I mean, it's really bad quantity, but you got in a pinch that 2K solid fertilizer. Yeah, I mean, worst case, we look at the fertilizer spreaders. Yeah. I mean, it does cover 14 meters, which is not nothing. That's almost like that's the same size as the Brendel. I like this one a lot. This is my favorite one, because covering 42 meters is amazing, and that little one you can just cruise around real easy with. But with that said, chat, it is about that time that we're going to start wrapping up for the night and all that, so let me go ahead and make sure I drop the save and all that. When we get back, I'll have to prep that field up again. But it was a very productive day in the game. We did get ourselves a silo. We did get the full harvest of the barley, where we got $25,000 with half the barley, and we got like another half in a silo waiting to be sold for what I'm gonna guess is about $35,000, somewhere in that ballpark. So it does mean we're making somewhere in the area of $55,000 to like $65,000 per year from that field. This next year I won't make quite as much because it won't be quite as fertilized and all that, but that's just dealing with things. But that should be pretty good. If you are watching over on YouTube, the stream will be abruptly ending because I cannot host someone else right there yet because I don't have enough subscribers to do that. So don't forget to drop in a sub if you have been enjoying it. If you're over here on Twitch, don't go anywhere, because what I'm going to do is put you on my ending stream screen, and I am going to